I'm going 5 for 5.
Dude, come on, man. Who is at the top?
The first one is Kwani, I think. Second one's TK.
The top is me, and I know my hair.
Top one that's my hair.
Under me is my duo from Globals, which is TK.
No, that's Kwani. That's Kwani top, TK middle, Peterbot bottom. Oh my god, I almost just threw that.
Who is that?
And the third one, I'm gonna go with Thatch.
This is Peterbot, right?
Cole? Maybe Cole? Kanata, TK. No. Kwani, TK, Cole. Final answer.
Yeah. The way his mouth is just like.
Oh my god. Peterbot?
That's Peterbot? No way.
That was close. I was like, my hair was never that long.
I mean, what is going on here?
The top is King Reet, the middle's Clicks.
Okay, we got Clicks.
Okay, top is Reet, middle is Clicks, bottom. Who is this? Who is that?
I have no clue who's on the bottom.
Just pass that. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, pass on the bottom.
Oh, Threats. Final answer, Threats. Oh,
it was Threats.
I would have lost that a million times.
Oh, I know the last one's Cold, the second one's Poyo, and the first one, where's that hairstyle?
Oh, you got Poyo in the middle, and then we got Pole at the top, Cole at the bottom. Lock it in.
I'm gonna go with Polarized.
Top one, Polarized. This is Poyo in the middle. Bottom one is definitely Cold.
The middle, like, that's just my boy Poyo. That's all I know. Pass on top and bottom.
Dang. Oh my, too easy. Too easy for me, man. Come on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I know my duo right there.
Oh, it is. I knew it. I think I'm gonna be top 3.
I'd say top 5.
I feel like I guessed, I basically had 95% accuracy, I think.
I had the best year last year out of any pro on NA Central.
We came 3rd and 5th in Majors 2 and 3, double qualifying for Globals.
My 2023 was good in the beginning because I was placing decently.
I qualified for my first LAN, which was pretty nice and fun, but I also didn't do as good as I thought I would.
I think towards the second half of it, I played really good.
The most disappointing part was the final major where I got 3rd place day 1 and then underperformed really bad day 2. And we were like a second away from getting that placement point we needed to qualify to the global championship. That's the point I look back on the most. And I think it inspired me for this year for sure.
I mean, I feel like at global championships, it was kind of a letdown. I really want to prove myself this time around, finish at least top 5.
Number one thing I do want to do this year is definitely qualify for every single grand finals.
I'm gonna win FNCS, go to globals, and get a top 10 this time.
For someone like me to qualify to the global championship, I need to make sure I focus up.
I definitely should care and prepare more than I did for the last globals. I got a reality check after getting dead last.
I feel like I have to win a LAN. That's my main goal. I've accomplished kind of everything else, online.
Qualifying in the first major is going to be pretty hard, but I definitely think I can qualify within the first 2 majors.
It's, everybody competing for that number 1 spot to guarantee their qualification.
I just let it happen when it happens. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to put pressure on my shoulders saying, I need to win this one. I need to win this one.
It definitely feels more pressure since there's no last chance qualifier this time.
I'm going to put all my effort into the game, and I'm going to just make sure that when September comes around, I'm ready for FNCS Globals.
If I just grind the season and I actually, take into consideration that I can qualify through majors, it should be easy. It should be fun.
Even if we do, let's say, win the first FNCS and we qualify, I'm still going to try to win the next 2.
whatever happens in Grand is where you find the best duo.
I'm gonna try to make myself known as one of the best IGLs in North America.
I'm gonna go for the back-to-back wins, set some new records.
I have to be at the global championship. It's not a how badly do I want to. I have to be there.
What's going on, Fortnite fam? Welcome back to the FNCS. We've made it. Grand Finals, 2 days, 6 games each day, and all for the chance, the ability to hold the Axe of Champions high, but probably more importantly, the first seats on the battle bus going to the FNCS Global Championships, all to play for here this weekend. My name is Zeke, and it's not just me. We also have Vivid. We also have Kelly. We have a weekend ahead of us, my friends. This is the FNCS Grand Finals.
This is it, Zeke. This is the thing that we have been talking about through qualifying weeks, through semifinals. It has been one heck of a ride. And Kelly, oh boy, did we get a teaser earlier by watching those EU games happen. There was so much action all the way down into the close. There was barely any heal-offs going on. So much excitement.
I mean, if we're going to talk about teasers, then we also have to talk about the most recent Cash Cup finals, which just seemed like a grand finals mini. It was absolutely insane. The top 7 are the biggest names that we have in Fortnite. Acorn and Cold came out on top in first place, grabbed 2 victory royales. Ooh. And then Agers and Kanata, second place, super close, grabbed 3 victory royales. Let's see if they can do that today.
Man, I can't wait to get into it. This is going to be amazing. We've got 6 games ahead of us, so let's just jump right into it. Yeah. Storm Surge. We know and we saw in EU, it was a problem for some duos. So I have a couple questions. How does it affect teams? How do we manage it? Vivid, what is it?
Yeah, I guess the first question that needs to be answered is what the heck is Storm Surge? And Storm Surge is basically a mechanic in the game that aims to regulate how many players are alive during each and every zone. So let's take Zone 6, for example. It wants there to be 60 players alive. Now, if there are more than 60 players alive during Zone number 6, then Storm Surge will activate. And if it activates, it will deal 25 damage every 5 seconds to a specific team. And how it actually determines what specific team it will start to deal damage to is based off of a damage leaderboard. And if you are kind of below that Storm Surge threshold, below the amount of damage that other players have dealt throughout the lobby, then you will be the one chosen by Storm Surge. Long story short, you basically just need to do more damage than the rest of the lobby.
And another thing to note about Storm Surge is that it actually recently changed from Zone 4 on. Essentially, 4 more players need to go down per zone. And here we're actually looking at the summary of all of the semifinal days that we had, how much damage needed to be done, and how many players were left per each zone. So you can see that Zone 4 is missing there, and that's because no players, Storm Surge wasn't activated. However, with the new changes and going back and looking at all of the games, Zone 4 would have been activated pretty much every single game. So I can expect that we're going to see some early Storm Surge today as well.
Yeah, I love that you kind of call out this change, right? This happened this week. And so the question becomes, how have duos managed to adapt, right? Adaptability, consistency. These are words we kind of toss around in the Fortnite space. For some duos, they're still trying to figure out some of these strategies. I wanted to highlight a duo here, Iamzo and Rise. We're looking at these guys as possibly a contender and frontrunner in the competition. We like some of the Storm Surge kind of adaptations they've made.
Yeah, I mean, Storm Surge is tough. And if you're going to want to be consistent, especially in grand finals, then you're going to have a strategy kind of based around it. Now, Yamzo and Rise are notorious for being consistent, especially last year, Kelly. So coming into this grand finals, I expect that they will definitely have a strategy that we're going to break down here in just a couple of seconds.
Yeah, I really feel like we kind of don't give them the credit that they deserve. If you look at last year, they got third, fourth, and third between all of the majors and have performed incredibly well throughout the last few weeks. And part of that is due to their Storm Surge strategy.
Yeah, let's take a look at their position right here. They, of course, land a little bit towards the center of the map, but in this game from semifinals, they decided to go towards the edge of the storm. Now, the reason that they're going to want to do that, there's several reasons, but what helps is that there are usually a lot of players towards the edge, right? That's usually how it works. And once they realize that the zone is pulling all the way up north, they actually invest some of their movement items to make sure that they don't end up on the congested side of zone. Now, once they do that, they're also able to go ahead and fight for their cash, which they basically end up getting for free. But as the game actually continues on, we're going to see them continuously kind of do something that is very, very smart. Like I just mentioned, since the zone in this specific game pulled all the way up to the north, of course, most of the teams that are making those rotates will find themselves on the south side of zone. And since most of the teams are going to be on the south side of zone, if you need damage for Storm Surge, why not go towards where all of the players are going to be, or at least most of them? So let's take a look at their position. It's going to be highlighted there. They're going to be in between those purple arrows on the right. And then look at this in that red circle. Look how many teams are coming up from the south. Yamzo and Rise are going to make sure that for the rest of the game, they have all of these congested teams, this jumble of teams within their range, but they don't want to directly involve themselves with any of those teams, right? Be box to box with them, because then they would just be a part of all of the congestion. Keeping these teams within their line of sight is important because they then have teams to actually deal damage to.
Yeah, a lot of this issue with Storm Surge comes from being uncontested, where they're going to be landing in Little Villa. They are uncontested there, meaning that they're not going to have these early engagements. So when they do rotate, they need to find other ways to grab those tags. And by going to dead side, there's the reason it's called dead side. There's not that many players there. So the position that they have is obviously going to help them out in the middle game.
Okay. So do we feel like some of these duos are ready to kind of attack some of these new Storm Surge changes? Do we feel like maybe there's still some issues we need to figure out?
I mean, yeah, there definitely should be, right? A lot about competitive Fortnite is about getting the reps in, right? And when changes like this kind of happen last minute, it's pretty much who can actually adapt on the fly, right? The experience that you have when it comes to Storm Surge can definitely come and play a part when it's just a little bit more aggressive, as we're going to see this weekend.
Love it. Let's talk about contested and uncontested. New Fortnite fans, welcome. What words did I just use? Did I make them up? No, this is a real thing. Contested just means if we're duoed up, we're landing in a POI, suddenly there's another duo there, we're contested. If it's free, we can just do whatever we want in the POI. It's uncontested. So with that in mind, let's kind of focus this in a little bit. What does this mean specifically to be uncontested? How does this help?
Basically, you're going to get a part of the map to yourself. And as you can see, some of our favorites coming into the weekend, they're going to have some uncontested job slots, which is big for them, right? As we know, history is a big part of an FNCS. And as history speaks a lot for itself, most of our winners have been uncontested. But I want to go ahead and hone in here on Kanata and Aegis, Kelly, because in my opinion, definitely one of the favorites to take home the championship.
Oh, without a doubt. And we already said before, Cash Cup, they got second place, great position, and that was from an uncontested drop spot there. However, if we look at their semifinals days, day one was a little rough for them. They got 17th place, and they were contested, going down early twice in that day. However, day two, now they're uncontested, and guess what? They grabbed 6th place. So clearly, this is a duo that thrives on being uncontested and has a bit more of an ability to take on these engagements when it comes to the mid and late game.
All right. Okay. I like that. So obviously we had a chance here to look at the map. I want to bring that map back up again, because as we kind of highlight Kanata and Aegis as a duo that is uncontested, there's more, right? And a duo we have eyes on, and rightfully so. It's Reet and Ritual. I mean, let's not forget their week one, 100 points ahead of everybody else. And now you're telling me they're uncontested?
Yeah, they're going to get the south side of Reckless Railways uncontested, and they're kind of used to getting that. But something else that they are kind of used to getting throughout the qualifiers and throughout semifinals has been that Forecast Tower. Now, whether or not they're going to be able to get that uncontested is still up for question. But Kelly, I can guarantee you that they will at least be fighting for it, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go ahead and bully anybody off and end up getting it uncontested throughout the rest of the games.
And although they do have the south side to themselves, there is Sphinx and Pump, an incredible duo just landing north of Railways or North Railways. So they are soft contested is what I'd like to say, or uncontested. And with day one, they had a relatively bad performance in the semifinals, getting 25th place, but none of this was due to off-spawn fights. And within day two, they were able to grab 9th place. And then in day three, obviously the best performance that we've seen from Ritual, getting 1st place. And even though they went down somewhat early in game 3, they were still 80 points ahead of 2nd place. So regardless of if they're contested, uncontested, whatever you want to say, they're obviously able to handle it.
Okay, so that's uncontested, right? That's we're good. We land, we're cool. Let's talk about being contested. The south half of our map is just names on names. Talk me through this a little bit.
Yeah, it's getting crazy down here. And if you go ahead and look through some of these names, you'll find some of the favorites to actually go ahead and win this FNCS. Let's take a look at the fields. Acorn and Cold, NPen and Mason, and Paper and Muzz. 3 duos actually landing here, to no surprise. Very strong POI. And all 3 of these teams have been finding themselves landing here throughout the qualifiers and throughout semifinals. And a lot of people have been saying that, you know, sometimes when you're contested, you could kind of go ahead and split some of the POI, split some of these buildings.
Right.
But I'm hearing that Acorn and Cold may be directly contested. So some of these teams may be looking for a fight to take out some of our favorites early on. I can't wait to see how this plays out.
Well, Acorn and Cold were definitely able to beat out Muzz and Paper in the Cash Cups. However, NPen and Mason weren't there. So having 3 teams contesting them and doing that hard drop might be a different situation. But I do think that we all look to Acorn and Cold to be able to handle these early game fights.
Okay, I vibe with it. And of course, 6 games, 12 across 2 days. They can make those micro adjustments. Let's bring back up that map. Let's talk about more of these contested fights because, man, we're going to be seeing quite a few. Talk to me about the Ship It Station.
Yeah, just over to the west, we're going to be seeing Peterbot and Pollo versus Mew and Xpon. Or will we? I don't know. I was doing a little bit of research last night. I was chatting in some streams, specifically to Comp Report. Shout out to him. And he was saying that Mew and Xpon might have something up their sleeve, and they're actually aiming to go ahead somewhere else on the map. Big question mark there, whether or not they will leave, which honestly, if I was looking at where I was landing during an FNCS and I saw Peterbot and Pollo landing in the same area, I'd be like, yeah, maybe we should go ahead and leave because, Kelly, if we saw aggression at all throughout some of the weeks and throughout semifinals, it was definitely coming from Peterbot and Pollo.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if we don't see Mew and Xpon land somewhere else. I'm talking about the Cash Cup a lot because it's the most recent tournament we had in set lobbies. And Peterbot and Pollo took them down 4 out of 6 games on drop. That's definitely not how you want to start your grand finals day. So, yeah, it wouldn't be too much of a surprise to see them change up their drop spots.
Yeah, this is going to be crazy, right? So I want to kind of frame this next question to the fact that now we are going to set lobbies, but we have 2 days of competition. How different have we seen grand finals usually be to like everything else we've seen to this point?
Oh, grand finals is just a step up for sure, right? All of those strategies that any of your team showing throughout qualifiers and semifinals, they honestly need to take it a step up when it comes to actually executing on some of those strategies. And I mean, if we're going to be talking about how EU went, right, we just saw it all. We saw solo clutches. Teams have great performances from low ground, great high ground retakes late into the moving zones. I'm expecting it all, Kelly.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially with the new format that we have, that for day 2, it's going to be 1.5 times the points. And there's definitely day 2 duos out there. A duo that I do want to talk a little bit about, Iamzo and Rise. Historically speaking, in the last chapter that we had for Majors 1 and 2, they actually ended off day 2, if you just look at day 2's points, in 1st place. So with that being in mind of the meta, I definitely think that Iamzo and Rise is going to have a bit of an advantage. However, hopefully he's feeling better. But on social media, Iamzo did say that he's sick.
Ooh.
That's going to be tough. But listen, they're pros for a reason, right? I get sick, that's it. No one talk to me. I'm going to lay in bed all day. These are pros, right? Now, we kind of talked about this, and you kind of highlighted a little bit, but day 2 teams, day 1 teams. Can you just quickly walk me through that? What does that mean?
Yeah, day 1, day 2 teams. Some teams, if they're a day 2 team specifically, maybe they need day 1 to kind of adjust, see how the lobby's actually playing out. And then when it comes to day 2, they just kind of show up. Some teams just like to, show up on day number 1. And then for some reason, they kind of like fall off a little bit on day number 2. But honestly, as we get closer here to the game, Kelly, I'm thinking about predictions. And I want one from you as well as Zeke. I'm going to go ahead and throw out Kanata and Aders as winning it. I think that they're just too good at Storm Surge.
Kelly?
Okay. Can I have 2 answers?
No.
So Acorn and Cold are obviously on a run right now. I always talk about snowballing, but from the NA West side of me, I'm going to say Reed and Ritual.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm gonna double down. I like Reed and Ritual as a duo that can walk away with win. But listen, that's just it for now, because I know what you want. You want to kick off the competition. You want some games. Well, before we get there, why don't we ask ourselves one question? What makes a champion?
What makes a champion? A champion is someone who ain't afraid of the big stage. A champion is someone who stands tall against any opposition. A champion is someone who can do it not once, not twice, but 5 times. A champion isn't someone who never fails, but someone who never quits. A champion has an edge. They have ice in their veins. They can't be cracked. A champion is someone who can step away from the battle bus for 2 years and come back like they never left. Champions innovate. Champions inspire. Champions conquer the world. Again and again and again. Champions can do it when the lights are the brightest, and they can come from the shadows when you least expect it. Champions come from far and wide to show you how great they are. A champion's journey begins long before a title is won. But the grand finals is the road all champions must take to reach their destination. This is the place where they make it known. Are you ready? This is where champions are crowned.
And we are off. The FNCS starts right here, right now. The grand finals, 12 brutal games of Fortnite are ahead of the competitors, Taco, and I couldn't be more excited to be here to call it with you.
It's exactly, you read my mind, MDF, because we have 12 games of action throughout the course of this weekend. But here, day number 1 of the NAFNCS Grand Finals. Who is going to try and pave their path to being the AXA champion lifter?
Well, the stage is set, and here we have it, the first battle that's going to kick off here between Rapid, Batman Booga, and the competitors that are landing all around them. There's about 3 teams down in this lower corner of the map, and you have to imagine this is where nerves are so high. But for Batman Booga and Rapid, they already have the advantage. They have the shield here to kick it off, and they're actually dictating the pace of the fight, cutting the opponents off already to try to secure the upper advantage.
Really nice lookout motives here by Rapid. Gets a solid placement on that last Shieldbreaker EMP. Now just going to crank up a little bit, get some overhead view over Skater and Dalty, but Skater, Dalty, not one to go down without a fight. Love this split positioning, though, from Batman Booga. He's looking to try and take the flank opportunity here, while the distraction coming from up high out of Rapid. Have to remember, this is also a duo who really left a pretty big impact throughout the course of semis. I mean, they had to battle their way through the lower bracket just to make it into the upper bracket. And then once they established their foothold there, found the Victory Royale during our win and in time.
Yeah, and it was towards the tail end, right? It wasn't a quick and easy in and out weekend for Rapid and Batman Booga by any means. They truly did have that uphill battle. They're one of the few teams that, found favoritism to this types of format, but jumping into things. Rapid and Bugha have to close this battle quickly if they want time to really get situated and beat the zone here as things are starting to move. And while this is all happening, the feed is equally lighting up as individuals are getting picked apart. So there's going to be plenty to update in just a couple of moments. But Rapid and Batman Bugha haven't concluded the battle when they have the advantage.
No, and right now, still a little bit of a split approach here from Rapid and Batman Bugha. They've got to deal with the likes of Skater and Dalty. Neither side wanting to forfeit anything further here at Research Rock, but Rapid, Batman Bugha, again, still with a relatively massive shield advantage over the opposition currently. And yeah, MBF, right now it looks as if Rapid might have had a glimpse there into finally securing a knock or an elimination of some kind, but just not enough ammo in that Thunderburst to want to keep that engagement going. So it will be a brief fallback as now Batman Bugha will continue to be a little bit split from his duo. Does have a good amount of that Flowberry Fizz, though, to keep himself well sustained. Now looking back, trying to challenge the height. It's Dalty just looking for an escape route. Rapid not trying to let him have it. Skater as well splitting off from Dalty, but now it's Rapid who can find himself in a bit of a fickle position here. Just wants to get the wraparound onto Dalty. First shot from the pump, not going to be able to connect. Dalty still barely managing to hold on for dear life here inside of his box, but Rapid, he's got the positioning he needs. He just needs to close it out with the aim. But the box fight still looking to possibly be turned here. Batman Bugha on the immediate retreat. Rapid now can't hold on any longer. Skater and Walty refusing to budge.
What just happened? That is what we call competitive pressure. Skater and Walty do not give up by any means. They managed to turn around what looked to be an absolute dismal situation, but Rapid, when it mattered most, when he had his opponent boxed off, when they played it so textbook, he could not land the shots that mattered most. What a crazy turn of events. Did not see that coming at all. But here we have it, Taco. We jump ahead with Cold and Acorn, who are surrounded by plenty of opponents here. This is just equally a part of the situation, but we have something even more important arising here. Aaron and Chance potentially taking out another favorite of Baka and Pars. Baka and Pars have had this historical slow start so far on all of their first features on the big weekends, and right now looks like you've got the lobby pressure and of course Aaron and Chance right on top of their heels, and that's going to find them eliminated here in full.
You can definitely tell that a lot of these teams trying to avoid some of those new surge thresholds that have been implemented, keeping in mind 4 less for every zone. So a lot of the action here, teams trying to confirm their damage, confirm these eliminations early on. Also, as far as Baka and Pars are concerned, the real downfall there is that fight essentially determining who's going to be able to secure the forecast tower. As of right now, though, a slightly separate engagement here. Peterbot Pollo not necessarily caught up in the action just yet, but don't necessarily know what their journey looked like. They've got their base built up currently around this forecast tower, but the moment it spawns in, you have to imagine Aaron and Chance willing to take another chance with another engagement.
A completely different story for Reet and Ritual, seemingly uncontested for their chance at, of course, this massive advantage in the forecast towers. And we've seen so much occur as far as fights, battles, right? And key points of moments, critical moments occur here for the forecast towers for Reet and Ritual. If things continue this way, if no one gives them resistance, if no one impedes on their territory, they will have the greatest advantage to take an FNCS. And even Reet took to social media. He was talking about how he has never felt this supported by the community as a favorite, but he likes the way it feels. He feels great. And I think that mental addition is going to definitely show itself this weekend. And already, Taco, I mean, I'm feeling like they have everything set up for them.
Only time will tell, though, whether or not Reet and Ritual truly are the main characters of this first FNCS Grand Finals, because there's quite a few other teams here, Monster, that would love to take that title away from them. Epic, Clix, another duo that has a lot of fan favoritism supporting it. So can't ever count out Clix or Epic in terms of making things be a little bit flashy as well on their approach here. But hanging out by Rebels Roost currently, Clix and Epic, very common rotation for them to move from Lavish Lair over towards the Rebels Roost, where they know they're going to have at least 1 or 2 teams that they could look to try and secure some of their surge damage on.
Definitely have to find a fight. Dan Redux might be a great pick for them. We'll see how that ends up unfolding for them. Now on over the threats and Dukes. And one thing I did notice in the feed as G Money picks up an elimination right there is that Kanata might have found a knock in a full elimination. So they might be potentially conned. When I know we were coming out of the opening, you know, kind of ceremony of this NA coverage talking about they might be completely uncontested. But I think there are some folks actually looking to adjust here. So we'll see who ultimately ends up having to battle their way out of their drop spots. Kanata and Aegis are completely healthy at the moment. For all we know, they could have beat the drop on someone. But look, they do have 2 eliminations here. And this is from those early game battles. It almost started off immediately with a fight there.
And seeing Kanata as well with this lock-on pistol, kind of curious because with their drop being by the Ritzy Riviera, they have a little bit of eyesight overhead with that slight elevation. More on that later, though. Right now, Epic Clix found exactly what they're looking for. It's a fight up against Day and Redux. Absolutely gassed. Nothing in the tank there for Day.
What a great tag. Epic Whale Clix making quick work of Day and Redux here. With no one around either in the zone, that's a perfect setup for them. I'm a little concerned, actually, of how fast that fight happened, that they're not going to have enough surge, believe it or not. You know, you go from 200 to 0 that quick. That's just 400 damage off of 2 players. They didn't seemingly have time to heal or anything like it. But the show goes on. At the complete opposite side, Ryzen and Yamzo. We chatted about how they have this 2-day formula locked in, but day 1 is the most pivotal, the most critical of their success. If they can take the lead here, they do have the history of playing very well after making adjustments leading into day 2. And for them to be the last team to rotate right now, granted they do have some grapple hooks, is still extremely concerning.
Even have the options there for crash pads if they so choose, but the way that Ryze and Yamzo are running past that farm ability definitely indicates that a lot more favoritism towards just using those grapples instead. But Ryze actually maxed out on metal currently, still looking to try and ensure that Yamzo has just as much of those hard materials steadily available, because as they make this rotate heading north out of the hazy hillside, they're definitely going to have to try and battle up against the likes of teams that are already situated, already poised on some of that northern elevation. So it could make things rather difficult. So they'll definitely want as much hard material as possible for those rotates.
Yeah, very important to single out the fact that they are putting that much emphasis. They're willing to trade out positioning for better, high-grade material. Bugha and Aviv, the complete opposite, already at the zone here, not maxed out on metal or brick by any means here. However, they are trying to play for key positioning so they can set themselves up to not only stay away from potential opponents and players on the edge, but find themselves some tags and really determine the pacing at which they take their battles. It's a great spot to be in here at the Reckless Railways. Like we talked about, we already know this general territory is housed by and Ritual, but they have the storm information, right? They know exactly where to go with that forecast hour. So unless they're long gone, I mean, we can assume the zone might be pulling this way. We'll see when we get an update with them.
The other thing that Bugha and Aviv are likely going to be keeping an eye out for, as well as honestly every single team participating in this Grand Lobby MDF, is the fact that these combat caches, I think with these new surge changes having been implemented, probably expect more players to try and get aggressive with those caches. I know oftentimes you won't necessarily see teams too head-on ready to aggress, but it's not just the material having that max metal, but just having the opportunity, generating the opportunity to get some surge tags online, such as what Muzz and Paper are lying in wait by the bush, Neko balls, just the wrong neighborhood, man. And that's part of the play that's involved with the Grands weekend. Muzz, Paper just, again, creating their own opportunity.
That is right. This is game 1 of the FNCS Grand Finals. If you're just tuning in, don't miss a beat here. Things are going to start getting pretty intense now as we're approaching the new Storm Surge thresholds. We talked about that 70 threshold being the place to be, the marker to have to fight towards. And if things don't start to turn up now, it's only going to become more and more of a issue for the lobby. But we've seen plenty of action here for an FNCS Grand Finals game number 1, which continues to be set as far as pacing is concerned for an NA server. You can see there the new thresholds updated.
And yeah, based off that fourth zone, 74 remaining players, we're due to see at least a couple of players maybe making some plays out of desperation as they try to get those damage thresholds above what they need. Skittles still trying to remain proactive as well. It'd be difficult, though, to acquire tags with just a standard Ranger pistol from a distance.
Take a look at the push right here. Golden and Ozone thought they had the coast clear, and all of a sudden Zooks and company land right up here on the Rift Island. They won't be able to secure the cash. However, they will get all the brick and material down on the bottom edge. For Golden and Company, this is the better spot to be. And I'm actually surprised we don't see Clix and Epic Whale up here. We've seen them throughout all of the semifinals weekends play for this Rift Island zone, and they generally have landed just to the north. You think they have rotated south by now if they're taking out Dan Redux. So positioning might be looking a little wary for them as we start edging into the later rounds of this game. We last checked in with Re and Ritual. They were at pretty much their general draw spot at the railways, so we know the zone's going to likely be pulling center and or eastern. We'll see when the timer updates. For now, Acorn and Cold are looking a bit desperate here, Taco. Very, very low material even after the 50-50 split, so you have to assume that both of these players are less than half their material cap count. They will have to battle here shortly.
For sure, but they can at least pick a more calculated moment in comparison to some of the other teams that might be surrounding them, given that their damage threshold is several hundred above. Acorn likely on the lookout, currently trying to scout, see if there is a possible third-party opportunity where they can look for that chance to secure some eliminations, build their damage even higher, but most importantly of all, get those materials, because they are most definitely going to need them throughout the course of these rotates, especially coming from that south side edge of the zone where a lot of the congestion is going to be building up anyway.
Trashy and Skittles continue to maintain this high ground spot. We already know that Skittles is having a very hard time with that tactical pistol, finding tags at range, so this is really all up to Trashy here to get this pressure going, to get these tags landed. Otherwise, they will start to fall behind very, very quickly. That's just one of the risks you take, prioritizing a more close range battle or weaponry. Meanwhile, Clix finds an elimination in the feed there, so Clix and Epic Whale continuing to turn on the gas pedal even under the pressure of what will be, of course, the Storm Surge to come here later. But for now, look, the pacing of the game moving faster than the warnings, showing that we really do have a very active NA server right now. They're not playing any games. They're not taking any chances. You have to respect an aggressive game 1 coming out of the lobby. Just tells us that we have confident players in here.
Confidence, certainly something that Peterbot has more than an ample amount of. But Peterbot, Pollo, actually going to make their approach from inside of this little ravine. And now Peterbot still trying to keep an eye out for some of these other teams. Knows that they're trying to get slightly further ahead into zone, but Peterbot's got to be careful here. He's got one right in front of him. G-Money trying to look for a regroup opportunity. As Peterbot will find a chance to get that small shield potion off. A little bit of Flowberry Fizz as well out of Pollo. Now it'll be Pollo. Peterbot following the rotation. Encrypted and Ducky just ahead. Same for Diego Plays. G-Money, but it's going to be Diego who gets the bulk of the damage there out of Peterbot.
And look at the key right here. They jump on Money right away. They don't want to give this up by any means. And Peterbot is the exception, not the rule. When you push into a team, you have to be very much worried that everything can end. Normally, Peterbot will be able to slip out of this type of situation, but you have to assume the pressure of the server is looming on all of these competitors right now, and it just doesn't go his way this time around. And now Diego is left to pick up the pieces here. G-Money at 4 eliminations, by the way. They get finished here very early to the hands of Ducky and Encrypted. Keep in mind, a great day 1 performance is important, but day 2 is even more important as the points are going to be worth even more. 1.5 times as much, in fact.
That's such a tragic situation, though, for G-Money and Diego. They were more than set on their surge damage. Peterbot and Pollo just taking such an aggressive jump into their box like that right as the 2-tick zone is approaching, and both teams caught out of it. Just can't imagine that it was ever going to be that beneficial for Peterbot and Pollo either, but at the very least...
Paper took down Kanata. Paper just took down Kanata right there. We haven't seen Agers fall, but Taco, that's looking pretty tight for some of the favorites.
At least it's game 1, if anything. That's something that always to keep in the back of your mind. Even if you don't get the best start to the day, if you're at least able to close things out in match number 6 with a solid finish, you still feel pretty good about your odds heading into day 2 typically, because consistency will be the key for these teams here today. There's a lot of teams dogpiling each other here at the Lavish Lair Garden. Trashy just trying to keep it moving, wants to break into that edge of zone, get some positional favoritism before the rest of the lobby has a chance to catch up. Trashy knows if this zone continues to pull towards that north side, does not want to get caught in that south end congestion. But it's hard to look back and find those tag opportunities to maintain above that damage threshold too.
What's crazy about what we're watching, especially like, forget the gameplay on the screen, I'm just looking at the way the map, the bottom right, the way all of the players are moving, they are just ratting their way edge to edge. This is really showing you that there's an anomaly occurring here on the FNCS Grand Finals. This is how important it is to the players that they just want to get to the safety of the zone, base down, and if they have to fight, so be it. They'll take those fights. For Reet and Ritual, they have much more knowledge than others. They know where the next zone's going, right? So they're playing a different level of game strategically. However, they need to fight still. They need the surge here. This is a very important battle, and they find a couple tags, but they're hurt in the process.
It will be just enough, though.
You have a knock.
That Dalty, though, could be very difficult to actually get to. Most importantly is the fact that at least for right now, Reet will get a little bit of space here. Ritual just continuing to target forward. It's Skater again, finding his way, just squeezing out of the box that Reet and Ritual were looking to knock on the door of. But again, Reet and Ritual now still feeling the pressure, because the next zone kickoff, it means that you just no room to ever really feel comfortable. So many of these teams just feeling the pressure now from that surge threshold.
Well, here it is. Jumping in with Sphinx and Pump. Pump is down. Sphinx is left to play this out by himself, so he finds himself a nice little elimination to keep him in the game. Just barely holding on by a thread there. However, for Reet and Ritual, things are still looking tough. Although they go back and forth here with their surge damage, other teams have an eye on top of them. 20 seconds until the damage does start to turn completely online. And if they don't find tags now, I mean, it might just be impossible to do so later. But you never know, given the nature of the lobby, players are going to start to fall here. They could potentially survive a little bit longer. I'm more curious to see as to why Reet and crew haven't actually just healed just yet with the Flowberry Fizz. If they wait any longer, it's going to be pretty tough.
Seems as though Reet and Ritual are really just banking on the fact that they wanted to maintain that Flowberry Fizz for when their shields inevitably get cracked. They can use this Flowberry Fizz to try and regen a little bit of shield, try and keep their white HP from going down too low. All they need is 4 more players to go down. But at the same time, no one is willing to budge from their box. If you're safe, if you're not below that damage threshold, there's no reason to peek right now. Likely teams also able to hear the shield cracks. Ritual now forced to expend the medkits as well. Heal off. Not even a thought process for Reet and Ritual currently. They are just begging for anybody to peek so they can look for an opportunity here to get some damage going.
Incredible to think they only need a tag. They actually find it right there. And it is so close. They are just barely holding on. Now, let's not count them safe just yet, as of course 3 more players still have to fall, and there's going to be the next threshold that they're going to have to worry about there. But what an intense moment, and they were virtually gifted, again, gifted all the information from the tower early on. Bugha also having a very difficult game here. Take a look at this. Aviv with a singular elimination taken out. Ritual under pressure now from the rifle of Bugha. He's only 39 above, make that 100 now, but also just very much on that very thin lining here, trying to hold on to this tournament run here.
Granted, it is still Bugha, though. And definitely a player that has more than earned his respect here in this Grand Finals lobby, but Reek won't be able to hang on for much longer. Gets picked off as he desperately tries to make a play on the low ground for some damage. That's going to be the end of his lobby 1 run, but Vila up top here with Quanti. Now going to look to try to max pull zone here. So Vila just want to get straight towards the next zone, but immediately you look to use that grapple blade towards frontside zone, you're going to get ate up in the process here. Vila, Quanti just barely managing to get a little bit of a chance, get some resustain going. Clix and Epic on the other note, though, inside the Migron layers, having a chance now to peek up that height, trying to see if they can get a chop going as well. You know this is a team that loves going for a height overtake as well.
I was just going to say, I'm so happy we tuned in when we did, because you saw that is literally what they do around this time. They start to eye up high ground. They've done it every single weekend so far, but never against the likes of Cold and Acorn, because Cold and Acorn have found it tremendously difficult to make it to endgame, let alone be in a high ground position. Meanwhile, Yamzo and Rise are just continuing to cook here, but they are below the surge and they're fighting ever so for it. And just because you have a grapple hook, you can see it is not free by any means to find yourself safe into the next zone. Pressure is coming from every single angle as the surge continues to force players to make decisions they wouldn't otherwise make. Yamzo, Rise traps someone in the box, but not quick enough to get the elimination, and it's Vila who's on the run right now with TK on the other side of the wall and Quanti in the mix. And look at this, Taco, they are just turning online, but high ground, a battle, Clix and Epic Whale going for it.
And it's just straight grapple up. That's the method from Epic and Clix. Epic, though, forced to fall back. Seems his damage a little bit too much to continue trying to hold height there for the time being. Duke threats more or less the same boat. Also try to look for a little bit of a height challenge here. Now Duke forced try and use his med kit, but using the med kit also means that he can't be moving directly behind threats. So this team wants to be careful, doesn't want to get too split here as the zone continues to pull across the course of Lavish Lair. And it's Acorn and Cole still managing to hold on to height.
Did an excellent job defending against Clix and Epic Whale. I'm actually surprised they managed to do that, considering they had 2 singular towers based out a very difficult way to hold the zone. But you know what? They each hold their own. And look at this. Clix continued to tear up here as he's at 5 eliminations, forced to the low ground. Epic Whale's down. No builds. Has to rat his way into the edge here. And he has continued to go. He finds a solo in front of him. It's Cold. It might be Acorn as well. No, it's actually just Cold coming down. Trying to single out Clix. And he is super hurt. Sandwiched between 2 players. But Acorn is there to back him up. And down goes Clix and Epic inside top 10 of the ultimate low ground. Trashy here with just 4 eliminations. Trying to make the best here, but they've already done so much. And the sleeper duo of Muzz and Paper securing high ground. This might be their game.
Muzz and Paper, though, drop in momentarily. Looks like they want to try and apply some pressure towards this bottom side. Rise and Yamzo, when these two are together, the low ground demons really tend to shine here. As now it's just a Minish as a solo directly above Rise and Yamzo. They've got ample mats to keep targeting forward. That's going to be a drop down momentarily from Paper and Muzz. They're trying to find these last few players standing in the lobby. But it's Rise, it's Yamzo. Still continuing to control the low ground. Acorn in the back, he's just trying to go for the heal off.
He's just going for placement points right now, but one thing is clear. Rise and Yamzo are closing in on 10 eliminations, and we've seen game 1 wins with 10 elims back to back to back, but Acorn is that wild factor as he snipes up the high ground here. Rise and Yamzo get taken out to the hands of Muzz and Paper. Paper jumps down and goes for it all, and in the end, Muzz is the one who is still standing. It seems like Muzz and Paper did just enough to take that first game there.
And that's incredibly close, by the way, for a moment there, it looked as though there was going to be an upset opportunity. Yeah, but sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
We've seen a lot of trades, actually. It'd be not a surprise to me if that was a very much fair trade and Acorn potentially took it. Who knows at this point? But take a look from the other perspective. Paper and Muzz had the determination to win this game, and I wanted to call them out a little bit sooner. I love the fact they were rotating a little bit later instead of immediately grapple hooking in, and it seems like that was the key to success here, as at the very end, they ride the storm out. Take a look. Muzz is in the back lines, healing, and on the front lines, we have the exchange happen out there. And Muzz gets the elim 6-1, and that's 7 eliminations for Paper and Muzz there.
And Paper Muzz, this is a team that you can expect some pretty big things out of MDF, but definitely a very strategical play there from the two of them. We've seen just how aggressive this lobby already is, though, for our first match of the day, Monster. So can't wait to see what Zeke and the analysts might have been able to take away from this one.
The only thing I have to take away is action. Wow. NA, game 1 of the grand finals delivers. I cannot believe how that all unfolded. Acorn, we're going to talk about him in a second. I want to start with Muzz and Paper, of course. My gosh, to start the competition with the victory royale and to take the fight to Iamzo and Rise in the manner that they did, this is a statement.
Yeah, I don't even know really what happened towards the end of the game there. I mean, Acorn and Cold looked like they were solid up on the high ground. They were able to defend Clix and Epic well, and then all of a sudden we look away for about 5 seconds and it's Paper and Muzz up on the high ground. What a way for them to actually secure that high ground, have the med kits to close the game out. So clutch.
And it wasn't just Clix and Epic Whale that they defended high ground against. It was Duke and Threats as well. And I think once they had to go up against both duos, Cold and Acorn decided to drop down low. I'm sure they used up some of their heals and everything, and that allowed Muzz and Paper to take height and to steal height away from Acorn and Cold. The duo that they're contesting against in Fencing Fields has to be a bit... feels good, right?
I mean, listen, if anybody were to ever ask me, hey, what's the best POI in the game? I think I'd have to say Fencing Fields. I mean, both teams landing there, both of them getting top 2 in game number 1 of the FNCS Grand Finals. Listen, whatever they're doing over there at that POI, it's working out for both teams for sure.
My gosh. Okay, Acorn, what in the world are you doing, brother? He had no right, no business making it in the top 5, and somehow, some way flies just under the radar with a med kit and just stays long enough alive to take away 2nd place. Those points could come back to bite everybody else.
Oh, they definitely will. And listen, Zeke, he actually had every right, because every single time that we have seen an FNCS, okay, whether it be them winning or getting, high up on the leaderboard, it has included solo clutches of this caliber. Acorn being an FNCS champion himself, he knows exactly what he needs to do. And listen, it starts at every single game. There may be 12 games, but every single one of them matters. And him making the most out of game number 1 is going to pay dividends after all is said and done.
And I love this. Zone 9, confidently seeing the team on high ground, being just using wood. They are able to chop them down and then use the tower to claim height, which is so smart. They were so aware of what was going on around them. And then, of course, they controlled the high ground for so long until they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, it just works out so perfectly. And then clutching up as well, getting as many eliminations, even when he's so low HP. That's what Cold's good for. Always finding those last-second eliminations. What a game number 1, Zeke.
Yeah, and Clix kind of playing a little bit of spoiler there, right? If Clix had not showed up, they might have actually looked to take away this win, right? Because it was Clix who got in the way and said, now you're left to fend for yourself, Acorn. But Acorn said, 2nd place, no problem. Watch me. My gosh. Well, of course, we're going to take a look at the standings here in just a moment to kind of see how things are going. But the Victory Royale paired with the eliminations, take a look. Muzz and Paper are leading the pack. Now, it's still pretty close, right? Iamzo and Rise with the 8 eliminations and that 3rd place placement right behind them.
Look how much of an impact these eliminations have. Iamzo and Rise in 2nd place pretty much because of those 8 eliminations. We love to see that. And listen, Kelly, we talked about it. Seems like their Storm Surge strategy is paying off, but Clix and Epic Whale not being phased by the off-spawn situation is what I really love to see.
Yeah, and they made a really smart move, Eom Zone Rise, in the in-game there, where they were kind of on the mid-ground, and then they were able to kind of rotate early, and then they decided to go to the low ground there. It was absolute madness, though, and I think when it's still kind of early on, you can't control the low ground as well as you'd hope to. So I think Eom Zone Rise definitely fell into a lesser good situation there, but then they were able to grab all those eliminations. It seems like whatever cold that Eomzo had is no longer an issue now.
Oh. Okay. A lot of these duos, they've impressed me, right? They're ready to go, which is interesting because many duos for game one, it's normally really slow, right? No one wants to make any mistakes. No one wants to go out first, but a lot of these duos are already heating up. They want to kick off this competition the right way. Now, of course, as we prepare ourselves, game 2 is upon us. So why don't we head on over? We've got our casters. It's MDF and the best taco.
Yeah, at this point, I don't even think Eomzo Rise are under the weather. I believe the adrenaline has kicked in. The focus is locked and loaded, and that has to be a confidence booster there, Taco.
If Eomzo wants to make this his Jordan Flu game, then I'm all for it because he's going to need that much, I think, energy at the very least to make it through day number 1 because, again, with 12 matches ahead, well, 11 remaining currently, but 5 on the day still to go. It's going to be a lot, but I think it's something he can definitely power through.
Yeah, well, listen, shout out to Muzz and Paper, especially because they were highly contested. Their entire area is a war zone, quite literally in game. And for them to make it that far and walk out of there with a victory royale is extremely impressive. But this is also going to open their eyes that this is possible. Anything is possible here. The biggest eyes we want to keep eye on are the mid games of Re and Ritual. How will they adjust? What will they do in order to really push the envelope and not fall underneath the surge problems that they had that game? Because that is definitely something worth going under review. So we'll see here as game number 2 is now ready. Here we have it, Taco. Game 2 is here. And we wanted to talk about potential contested battles, potential fights that are happening. We already saw Kanata and Agers have an early game engagement. It seems like Cooper and Miro have a difficult time happening here up against Sinetto and Veer.
Sinetto and Veer challenging the likes. Well, I say challenge, but that didn't look too problematic as far as Cooper is concerned. Just wins that initial 50-50. Off spawn, got to the wet first, and now at the Marigold, Cooper, Miro, more than happy to just take their time looting out the entirety of the yacht here. Same story can't be said, though, for Baka. No eyes on Pars. Have to assume that this has been a 1-for-1 trade so far. Aaron not going to look for the revive opportunity just yet. Wants to see if he can get this wraparound instead onto Baka. Take advantage some of those truck barrels, and now trying to close in onto Baka. But again, early enough, Baka can still make the recovery for Pars off a reboot van if he wins this initial engagement. Game number 1 did not go the way of Baka and Pars. Game number 2, though, Baka trying to get aggressive here. Now trying to force his way into Aaron's box, but Aaron just so wisely utilizing this building over by the Reclaim Villa to keep himself safe for the time being. But Baka, again, just overhead. And he needs to win off this engagement, MDF. He wants to actually start out the match this time playing through as a duo.
Yeah, but smartly and wisely backs off here to get a little bit more material. Aaron snipes up what gets, spawned out of his teammate's body as well, along with the card. And look at this Baka with the ambush play up above here. A little sneaky, but he's completely out of mass. Has to edit his way down, and it's another great spot for him to be in here. All in all, there's a couple of ways that he could play this out, but we might be seeing the story flip to the other side of the shoe here now, as again, Cooper and Miro actually were one of the first teams eliminated last game. Baka and Pars as well. Can they turn this around? I mean, Baka has a difficult task in front of him, and if he's going to stand around here, I mean, the risk is going to continue to rise. But he's just trying to get material, but every time he swings his way out into the open, he doesn't feel safe. He's using it a lot sooner than he'd like. And Aaron now, recognizing that he has a chance here to push in. He's found Baka again. He goes for it. Hits the cone, and that's the difference with having just a little bit more material there.
The other problem, too, for Baka is he just doesn't have a shotgun. You've got Aaron with the Frenzy Auto. Aaron trying to close in. Baka still looking to put in work, but this Hyper SMG just paling in comparison. Still, Baka rolling out on top here. Revenge established for Pars. Now it's going to be all about that reboot card into the reboot ban opportunity. Agers and Kanata, though, might find the run ending here shortly as Agers does go down to the likes of Hound and Aiden. Another team successful with our initial off spawn. And these are some massive battles that are brewing here because we had our hunches in game number 1 about Agers and Kanata being contested at their drop when they initially expected to be. So
yeah, but it's looking like there's even more going on there because not only did they already have eliminations, Hound came out of nowhere. That's a completely new team that has decided to rotate into that. And that's what happens, adjustments to adjustment, right? Game to game. Players are going to recognize, oh, look, Agers and Kanata land right here. It seems like they're contested. Maybe we should have rotated that way, right? And look, all of a sudden now game 2, things are looking pretty tough for Kanata and Agers.
Chimp and Scissor, though, things actually looking a little bit beneficial here. Chimp finding a massive blow there onto Piggle. And this is a huge swing against Jiven because when you factor in the eliminations acquired by that duo, Jiven and Piggle, throughout the course of semis, Piggle had 19 of their total 22 team eliminations. So it's going to be quite the uphill journey for Jiven to recover this one.
Last time we tuned in with Dan Redux, they were taken out early on by the hands of Epic Whale and Clicks. This time it's X-Pawn and Mew who take the fight here. Day, his back is against the wall. Can he earn any points here for the second game? It's not looking too hot as X-Pawn has a huge HP lead at the moment. Day left to run here, scrambling for any scrap of resource. And Mew still has his down teammate there too, and this might be the mistake of the push here. He's given Day enough time to already start to regenerate some more shield, and Day does have a med kit here, but look at the piece up from X-Pawn. It's looking great. The Day is absolutely ready here.
X-Pawn has to be hyper aggressive though, unless he wants to try and find this last minute revive, but not going to be able to make it to Mew in time. So a true 1v1 to take place here at the Rebels Roost, but Day actually finding a decent little loot pickup. Have to imagine that was Redux's loot that Day was able to take advantage of. Crash pad out. What I was going to say, MDF, is that if Day and X-Pawn take too long, keep in mind, there's still that rotate coming out of Clicks and Epic Whale from Lavish Lair. We know how often that duo loves to rotate towards Rebels Roost. So X-Pawn and Day have got to figure it out who's going to be the duo that gets you in there, because it won't be long before Clicks and Epic Whale try to sniff them out. It's Forecast Towers, all due to be claimed here. Ritual and Reet collecting their Ender 1, given that the Forecast Tower southeast of Reckless Railways is the only one with a 100% spawn-in rate.
You can see 2AM Zavi here just sitting back, too wary to go for the potential NPCs in the forecast. They're not possibly worth the risk. He weighs his options. Batman Booga and Rapid on the other side continue to be contested on their drop, and now have seemingly picked up an elimination, but they have more to worry about here. Is not only is there a solo nearby, but there's a team lurking, looking down from up above. It's Bryce, it's Chubbs, who were also equally contested there, and it seems like although they won their fight, Bryce tries to come here to the hillside to play for a pickup, and there's still too many players lurking about.
That's the issue. You've got the likes of Batman Booga and Rapid rotating to Hazy Hillside from their drop at Research Rock.
And actually, it's Yamzo and Rise who are looking in, ready to fight for the zone here.
Not too surprising, though, when you factor in Yamzo and Rise dropping over by Lil Villa. They definitely have access towards trying to find third party or even just damage opportunities. Rapid, though, going to run straight into Yamzo's bush. It's Rapid forced into a handful of panic builds now, but does regain some control of the situation. Does still have his duo directly next to him. As Rise and Yamzo look to try and create some space, move off to a separate hill here by the Hazy Hillside. And that's going to default Rapid and Batman Booga to actually go down the hill face. Make sure they get out of the line of sight there from Rise and Yamzo on their rotate.
Get an update with Clix and Epic Whale here. I would love an update on Muzz and Paper potentially, as well, as we see our elimination point leaders and our overall placement point leaders are all sitting up at the top. Take a look here. Speaking about that top 10, our 8th place, Sovzy, has been already dropped and taken out here. So things will shake up, and we have a long game still in front of us. Clix here deciding what he wants to do. He's got Violet to the right. He makes the call out, hey, Quanti's by himself. Let's go for it. And they immediately jump in. And looks Clix wary of the teammate to come in as well. I'm sure he's hoping he would have hit those shots there. And the advantage they have is now gone. And this is going to really tell us a lot about how they're feeling on the day. I was going to say whether or not they finish this fight or back off is going to be so important to the play style that they're looking to execute on. And they're going to back out. So what we're getting from this, what we're downloading from this, is that they want to play for the long haul. You have to respect it. Here's that update we're looking for.
It's just too massive of a body of water. And with the other hillside being so open, Clix, Epic, Quanti, and Bilo probably just recognizing the fact that this is not a very fruitful engagement for either of us, because it's just so easy for another team to possibly third-party take advantage of, essentially wipe them both out. So I respect the desire there from Clix and Epic to want to be a little bit more cautious, trying to maintain those top 10 placements throughout the course of today.
Oh, look at this. Acorn, 2 eliminations. However, they are pressured down as Cole gets taken out. And actually, they have 4 as a duo. So this has been an incredibly start for them right now, and it's cost them so much. Acorn once again with no shield. There hasn't been a single time we've jumped in with him and seen them fully comfortable, fully situated. It's always been one thing or another, and this time it's Peterbot and Boyo who are giving them a run for their money. Peterbot and Boyo are one of the most turned up teams in the semifinals. They were just pushing through lobby after lobby, making it look so easy. And they're continuing that pace, that aggression here for game number 2 of the NA Grand Finals.
And poor Acorn as well. This is a true rags versus riches situation. You can see all the material, max mats there from Peterbot. Have to imagine that Poyo is essentially maxed out as well, full cap on those builds. Acorn going to finally get an opportunity here now that Peterbot and Poyo have rotated out, but Acorn definitely having to keep in mind that there is at least one team close by. Still, at least he will be able to reap some of the benefits of these drawn-out engagements, but sometimes too much action can definitely be detrimental there. And even though Acorn and Cold were able to find those 4 elims early on, if Acorn isn't able to recover Cold via Reboot Van MDF, seriously have to question how that solo performance is going to go, because not having your duo this early on could definitely make for a challenging mid-game.
Yeah, nearly impossible, if you will. We saw how difficult things got last game for the likes of Re and Ritual, just try to find surge tags at some given point in the game. Jeff and Oliver OG, though, looking very healthy here in between this little low ground position, trying to stay low as far as their profile and presence is concerned. For Yamzo and Rise, they've made their way from the outskirts on into the new zone, and they find themselves completely situated, actually, with a healthy amount of material, ammunition, extra heals. I'm wondering if whether or not they need to fight, though, because of the fact they don't have eliminations here. That might be their biggest drawback. Oof. He's going to be upset about that, but you see the returning fire. No hesitation. And the sniper shots coming back here. But hey, Taco, look, we have activity everywhere. Even Clix lighting up the feed. Let's take a look at that elimination.
Can't say it's too surprising. Clix with the big frenzy, just completely running down Freeze. Freeze and Sus falling to the likes of Epic and Clix, though. That's definitely going to be a pretty big pickup as far as their surge damage threshold is concerned. But Ritual finding themselves in a bit of an engagement here, just underneath the Rift Island. The other thing to keep in mind, as Re will take this Rift up, not necessarily to challenge on the island, but does seem as though Re and Ritual would like to look for an opportunity to maybe farm out some brick. Rift Island can definitely be great for that. Even if there are other teams contesting it, you just to try and trade damage. As long as you don't find yourself getting knocked or fully limbed in the process. Acorn and Cold, though. Acorn's rescue mission, a success, as Cold is back up and running, but they are so far south of where the zone is at. Refarming materials, Monster, on top of making that rotation in the first place, where every other team is going to have priority positioning over you. Quite the battle remains still for Acorn and Cold in this one.
And no grapple hook either, just worth mentioning. It's going to be a long while before they get to the safety. You can see that's actually them here, moving up from the flank of Duke. Little do they know, there's a lot of attention looking this way as teams are hunting for Duke, so they do have to be very careful here with how they enter into the zone. And I think they're picking up what we're putting down here as they're starting to edge their way around the outskirts. So for Duke, though, you have to assume things went terribly wrong here because he has quite the loadout, a loadout that should not be one to where you'll be missing a teammate here. So with threats being eliminated, he too is going to have to probably play into the zone right now to play for a pickup. He surely has the heals and the sustainability to go the distance.
Duke right now kind of just rummaging through the remains of what looked to have been a pretty intensive Oxfight battle. But again, just outside that edge of zone, you can see how many teams are already situated up on some of these hills now, facing around Ritzy Riviera. Cooper, Miro, rather impressive Skybase themselves, as Cooper will opt to go to the top of his, try and gauge out if there's any teams they can look to try and hold on the edge of where they're currently situated. But a lot of pressure as well on Cooper and Miro when you really boil it all down in BF. I mean, coming off of that global championship win, you know that this team wants to replicate that sensation of being the champions.
This just works out perfectly for them right here. As Cooper was so wary of the bases up top. You could tell he was playing specifically for it. We just mentioned the fact that Acorn and Cold had to be wary of the fact that Duke was playing Storm, and it seems like they count him out first. Cold nearly gets taken out once again there. However, I'm sure they're going to be extremely happy about the material pickup here and the loadout now delivered for Cold. So that's going to effectively put them right back into this game here. And they're at 5 eliminations, so one can assume that even if they don't get a lot of placement points, this game is not a dud by any means. These elims are extremely, extremely important. Here goes the big rotate, though. Just going to put them right back into the mix of things.
Again, still so much ground to cover. Granted, crash pads with the Flowberry Fizz will help mitigate some of those troubles, but got to make sure to land on them. Unfortunate there for Acorn. Cold does have a grapple, though, just off of Duke's body. As for the rest of the lobby, though, that's already managing to stay more in line with where these zones are pulling. Skittles, Trashy, forced to the low ground for the time being. But they definitely want to try and work their way up. Will find themselves a nice bush here to kind of poison for the time.
What a zone. This is going to pull through the body of water, and all these players up here that thought they were playing for dead side rotate, wrapping all the way around the outskirts, find themselves met with 3, 4, 5 other duos trying to, simulate the same exact strategy. There are no free rotations in the FNCS Grand Finals lobby. That's why you have to truly appreciate teams that can execute well and do it without taking any casualties. G Money as well finds his own teammate down, and he's so wary. In fact, he doesn't even want to go for the pickup at this exact moment, right? He's waiting it out. He's making absolutely sure the coast is clear, and the zone continues to put the pressure on. So look at that. He won't even be able to save him.
Right now, G-Money throwing that med kit up, trying to keep some of the resources close to him. Can't carry everything as a solo, so toss forward what you need. That way you don't have to stay inside of that storm, eating some of the tick damage that goes along with it. I like this though from Clix and Epic. Trash Pan gonna help them essentially just catapult themselves immediately into the edge of the next zone. And they're actually going to take this moment, turn back now, see if there's any other teams they can look to hold. But Clix, he's wary of this duo that's up on the hill. It's going to be Blake and Macwood, just west of where Clix and Epic are currently at. They're not content with their position. They want to go even further.
Yeah, Clix is actually holding that sniper out there. He was trying to see if Blake or Macwood would get a little too anxious and over peak there as he noticed they were firing out to the left and right. One small mistake and you never know who's got their eyes on you. And someone like Clix, who's been running sniper all season long, is definitely due for a big tag on stream. For Quanti and Bilo, they're continuing the pacing here after a close call against Clix and Epic Whale. So this might be a full story coming around here as far as the engagements are concerned, but take a look at the rotate here. Free as day here on the beach as Quanti's getting himself completely situated. This is a huge way for him to get right back into the game. The first an update from the Twins here. Bugha and Aviv dressed for success right now as they're sitting dead center. Do they have the forecast tower is my question at this point.
Would not surprise me given their current positioning. It's rather bold to go into center of zone. So for Bugha and Aviv to want to set themselves up definitely would lead me to believe that they probably know a little bit more than what some of these other duos might be wary of. They got to make sure that they can keep that damage threshold well above. Pollo, Peterbot, also waiting to see if anybody dares step to them. More than happy to try and get some tags of their own. Acorn and Cole, they finally found their way back to the thick of the action here and waste no times in taking out Oliver OG.
Not only that, they secure the loot. Most importantly, they get to pick up all of that loot there. Reed and Ritual was sitting right up above them, but I don't believe there was any resistance there as Reed actually gets knocked to the hands of Rise here. What happened? They were rotating. How do you get a knock in the middle of a rotation is a question to be answered for a later time. However, Ritual will get the pickup. Rise contemplating whether or not it's worth pushing into, and he's going to investigate, but no luck there. He's a little too late to the party. And Rise has to play this one out by himself right now. Now, with 25 duos remaining in the game here, he is just now getting to the point where replacement points will start to add up. Iamzo and Rise did a lot of damage to get this far here, so they'll be comfortable for a second, but Cooper and Miro edging their way up underneath the bases of Reed and Ritual and Muzz and Paper next door. Keep your eyes on the field for that potential clash.
Muzz and Paper is the main one to keep an eye out for. They're on the same exact layer as Rise as well. So definitely a solid chance that they might even just run directly into them from going forward. And I think that's why we see Rise now opting to try and crank up, but Muzz, Paper, all too quick with it. They're going to go for the instantaneous chop. They've got their eyes set on height. They want to be the first ones to strike. They're not going to let Rise hold this high ground, especially not if they're able to account for the fact that he's a solo, if they've been able to keep tabs on that Elim feed. No way to really tell just yet, but as the zone continues to pool, Rise, he's at least got a little bit above the damage threshold. So as a solo, he's probably going to want to wait for all these teams to rotate first and then just try to sneak on by and try to hang out through the backside of the zone.
But look at the aggression. He knows that he needs a refresh here. He knows he has to make a big play. He jumps into the box, gets the finish, gets the material, and now he has an actual chance here. Not only that, with a clean escape, breaks out the side with the grapple hook. This is a player that is willing to fight for it and put it all on the line, but no, little too soon, too early with the rotate to the front side of zone, as positioning is, of course, key, and he finds the lobby looking right at him. Wow. What is this, though? A huge find is going to put him right back in the game for a second.
Somebody's got just like a little burrow hoisted up in the middle of nowhere.
He doesn't trust it.
He's definitely wary, but it doesn't matter. The loot has already been secured, and despite having been heavily punished for that maneuver where he tries to grapple to frontside low. No surprise that the entire lobby would look at Rise in the process. It's just incredible stuff that he didn't get knocked. Just like how Muzz fell shortly. Paper trying to keep things going, but he's not going to have a chance to revive Muzz. Simply too far in here. He's going to have to leave his duo behind. Don't even think he had a chance to collect any of the materials left over from Muzz. Now Paper knows he's just got to get ahead of where this zone pool is going.
He was just a couple moments away from being able to secure that loot, but he finds a new body instead. And there goes the material a little bit, but the material he needed nonetheless there. And Paper is right back into this game here. And we called it. We knew Miro and Cooper were eyeing them up. But look at high ground. Clips and Epic Whale once again going for a high ground retake here. This is the second game in a row now. So bold and accurately actually managed to take this high ground this time around. And it is theirs for the time being. But Clips doesn't have a lot of material. So he has to turn and burn on the lobby. Although he has limited medium ammo, he has so much light ammo to work with on the low ground. Cold and Acorn from the depths, coming back into the game here against all odds now, are at 6 eliminations, front side of low ground zone. Arguably some of the pioneers of this type of play style in motion in endgame right now.
Aviv and Bugha, though, looking to give the low ground a little bit of a challenge here. Aviv, Bugha, likely also going to opt for a high ground take if their chance arises. But inside the depths of the congestion, inside of some of these lower layers, Clix, Epic, they'll be picked off as Ritual now look to try and overtake front side low. Cooper and Miro directly next to them is also tarping through front side low. Peterbot and Pollo, though, not trying to let anybody have fun underneath them. They've got so much suppressive fire going into these low ground builds.
Worth noting, Paper is still alive as well in the zone. He makes it well into the top 10 now for another game. Absolutely incredible as he was by himself and he falls to the hands of Miro, of Cooper, who, by the way, we're taking out from 45th in game number 1. Here for game 2, they're fighting their way all the way back into the top 10 and plenty of eliminations to boot for it, to show for it as well. Pollo and Peterbot making up for this time too. Finds Chimp here on the high ground, and this is all but their game to lose at this point as they have all of the momentum here in their favor.
Can't ever count out Aviv and Bugha, though. Aviv with that Frenzy Yado, going to make quick work of Scissor. Will manage to pick up the material, but at the expense of his white HP, at least the Flowberry Fizz will get Aviv back to full shield. Aviv and Bugha now just trying to tarp directly underneath Peterbot and Pollo. Behind Peterbot, though, he spots out Cooper, who's trying to play spoiler to the high ground. Minimal chop, but it's going to be Peterbot, Pollo challenging Bugha, Aviv knocked inside of the bush. Peterbot, Pollo, they know it's just them versus Bugha. Bugha can't make it happen this time. Peterbot, Pollo finding the victory royale here in match number 2.
It's almost like Peterbot had X-ray vision. He just pre-fires the bush. He says, you know what, Bugha, there's only so many places you can be, and he does not miss finding the wonderful tag there to close the game out. And just like that, it was only a matter of time before Bugha, Aviv, Cooper, Miro, and all the other big dogs make their way into the next game and into an end game, most importantly. And look at that. The favorites are up at the top now.
Definitely looking very chaotic, though. Neither the low ground or the high ground were ever really all that safe or confirmed. It wasn't until really that final moving zone that we see Pollo and Peterbot finally managing to overtake on height. And yeah, Aviv getting knocked inside of the bush. Realistically, there's only one spot that Bugha is going to look to try and hide out in to turn this in his favor. But a 1 versus 2 up against Peterbot and Pollo, I mean, come on, MDF.
Yep, it was just a matter of time. Congratulations to Peterbot and Pollo as they take this game number 2. And my gosh, FNCS does not disappoint by any means. We are off to a very explosive start, and we're seeing some of the best clash it out.
Yeah, just honestly really looking forward to see how the rest of today shapes up. But we got to get it back to the desk to figure out how that leaderboard is looking after match number 2.
Peterbot and Pollo. They go into game number 2. They think, all right, where are we at, Pollo? Well, Peterbot, we're in 42nd place. He said, how many points do we have? He said 0 points. He said, hey, you want to get a victory out with a bunch of eliminations? That's exactly what I want to do. Suddenly, These two show up. We've been talking about these guys for weeks as being one of the most, if not the most aggressive duo here in NA. And every time, how many times, Vivid, have we seen them come in second place, almost get the victory royale, then a couple occasions get a victory royale, and now here they are in a grand final stage. 9 elims and a victory royale?
Yeah, I mean, there they are. There's Peterbot and Pollo, right? This is why they are favorites by some people to actually go ahead and win this FNCS. But the big question mark, the big thing holding them back on a lot of prediction lists was the possibility of being contested. And as we've seen after these first 2 games, Kelly, it looks like that is not the case at all. Peterbot and Pollo are officially off of the leash and are allowed to just rain chaos on the rest of the lobby mechanically. I mean, Pollo, look at this. I mean, the reaction time, instantly being aware of just anything that might come his way. That's why this duo is so good, because individually, they're the best.
Without a doubt, they are mechanically 2 of the best players in the world, not just in North America. And to see them be able to claim high ground and a late high ground, which definitely seems to be the strategy for success here, and then use that to their advantage. And I love just how this ended off. Of course, Peterbot and Bugha are, you know, well known to each other. And to have him take Aviv and Bugha down in the final moments there probably feels good for Peterbot. And we saw them in game 1 grab the forecast tower. I can only imagine in game 2 they were able to claim the forecast tower as well. And if they were, then props to them, because they definitely seem to know exactly where the zone was going.
Just a master for control in that last game, right? Allowing and dictating, lobby, you are allowed to do these things and we will control height. You can try, but you will not take it from us. Let's look at these standings. Let's see how things are going after the first 2 games. Now, nobody panic. It's just the first 2 games. We have 12 across 2 days rather. But in first place, Muzz and Paper, 135 points. Whoa. Whoa. And suddenly Acorn and Cole jumping up. And then look at this top 5, 6, 8. This top 10, Vivid, I'm losing it.
There's like 18 different storylines to break down after game number 2. I don't even know which one to pick. Let's go with the Clix and Epic Well one, right? 5th place for them is huge. I think that one thing we were missing in semifinals from Clix was his ability to actually hit some snipes. But we've already seen his ability to go ahead and hit some of those snipes, and it has been huge for them so far. But Kelly, their ability to go for high ground so far, hold it for a couple of seconds, has been a big part of their game plan. Can't wait for them to actually hold it for the entirety of an end game.
Yeah, and we saw this during the semifinals. They keep going for height just a little too early, and they were able to hold it for about 1 zone. But when you go for height around zone 9, it's just inevitable that other duos are going to try and chop you down, go and fight for it. And that just, I wish that Clix and Epic Well would just wait 1 or 2 minutes before trying to take high ground. And I know when you finally see high ground being a little susceptible to damage, you want to go for it, but that just seems to be their issue time and time again.
Guys, just a single game took them from no points to 6th place. Just think about tomorrow, right? Just think about you and your duo. You just need one fantastic game like that, and suddenly these standings are blown completely open. And this is just game 2. I feel like the day's done. Like, we played 6 games. We'll be back tomorrow. This is just game number 2, Vivid.
Yeah, I mean, game number 2, but we're already seeing some crazy performances. It's already seen some crazy solo clutches, right? Yamzo and Rise still towards the top of the leaderboard, but that was no easy feat for them. In order to hold on to that high placement still on the leaderboard, Rise had to go and do it all, losing to Yamzo very early on. And listen, I know we all saw when Rise kind of walked into that building, the whole lobby was spraying at him. Look at this. Med kits, I mean, some minis, some mats to grab too. Like, what was that? How do you find that?
I feel like that was the script writer being like, no, this isn't part of the script, and scratching something out and then putting it in there into the universe. Absolute luck. And although a lot of this does come down to ability, there is some element of luck that comes into winning these games. And Rise just had that in spades, holding down. And honestly, this is where he shows that it's not just luck as to why he was able to survive for so long.
I'm just impressed, dude. This has just been 2 games. Again, we have 4 more on the day, and NA is showing we are here to play. That's why we have an accolade like Global Champions. That's right, we do. NA. I'm sorry, I just love the rivalry EU versus NA. But anyway, we're getting closer to starting game number 3 on the day with 4 more games. what is going to happen. What duo could have an explosive game like we just saw? Let's get ready to jump back into it. I want to watch more games, and I know you do too. So, casters, on over to you.
Hey, can always appreciate big things coming out of the North American players here, but we do have game 3 shortly underway. Monster, you look like you had something to say there, though.
Yeah, it was definitely that this weekend, the implications of the FNCS Grand Finals is so important to the global champions, although it's such a road away. So I love that Zeke's already, going to continue to jab as we start to set things up. But the standings, the leaderboards is really telling a story of the veterans that are just dominating the top 10, even when they had a lot of them a very difficult game 1. You can see how the pacing, everything will just start to settle here. And game 2 is showing us a story of what might just be some of our finalists.
And easily what's been one of the most impressive aspects of today. Granted, we are only just about to head into game number 3 here, MDF, but it's the quick adaptability that these pros are really showcasing. And match 3 finally here, so we'll get a chance to see exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, Taco, we get to talk about it. We get to see it all unfold here, especially as we likely will tune in with more of a contested early game. So last game, early on, Miro and Cooper were highly contested, but they finished the threat quickly. It wasn't the same for game number 1. Boyo and Peterbot, too, have a bit of resistance here at their draw spot. So you can tell, although they're having a great tournament run so far, it's not completely free, right?
Not completely free, but nothing ever is. Cooper and Miro, on the other hand, trying to make quick work of Sanito and Veer. We saw just how rapidly Cooper was able to end the run here for Sanito and Veer in match number 2. Now Cooper next to Miro. They're just going to keep breaking on down. They want the immediate challenge up against the likes of Veer and Sanito. But they also want to make sure that they're getting proper materials online as well. Sanito and Veer are actually going to recognize the fact they were just beat to the punch. The drop just not good enough, and rather than find themselves elimed at the hands of Cooper, they're just going to opt to launch pad away instead. One of the benefits here at the Marigold. But as far as that reference towards a pro's adaptability, what I mean by that, MDF, is when you think about how recently these new surge thresholds were actually implemented, and just seeing how quickly these pros are making sure to adapt towards that. It is no easy means, as is playing at a grand set lobby, trying to get your surge damage online. So when the stakes are raised even higher and things are much more aggressive at the start here, it's just impressive stuff to see.
Yeah, and it couldn't be more clear. We've seen so many instances already in game 1 and game 2 that really showcase the difference between your average, casual, even ranked arena game versus FNCS finalists, and the way they maneuver, the way they play the map and position themselves on the outskirts. That last game, number 2, had so many teams early on what arguably would be a dead side, playerless zone, an area, but not in an FNCS Grand Finals lobby. There's going to be players every single which way you go. There's going to be players that are trying to, play a type of strategy that likely will mirror your own, and we're going to see that time and time again. Right here is a great example of teams that are looking to fight on the outskirts. There are 3 currently battling, and there's 1 looking inwards, deciding of whether or not they want to even push in. And it seems like that team's on the move here. And then to the north, a solo might be looking to engage into this battle here shortly as well. It's not looking good for Maxo as he gets finished off here to Pars and Baka. But there's threats everywhere.
This is big, though, for Pars and Baka. Over here on the far west side of the map, they've been encountering quite a lot of sticky situations, and not every single one of them necessarily going their way. This match, though, Pars and Baka at least off to a pretty hot start there with those 2 eliminations. Veer and Sanita found themselves, they left Cooper and Miro alone just to run into Kanata and Agers instead. pick your poison sort of ordeal here if you are Sunito and Veer, but they're hoping to turn this one in their favor. Kanata and Agers, though, well aware of the fact that they've got a little bit of competition here at their drop. But for Veer and Sunito, having been forced off of the Marigold, now into an area where, sure, you've got familiarity with the map, but that doesn't necessarily mean you know it as well as Kanata and Agers probably do, since it's where they've been dropping all season long. And things only continue to pick up here as Sigma, no Vorteca at the Classy Courts. He's just trying to escape.
Just trying to survive right now. That's what the name of the game is going to be here for teams that have had a struggle to game 1 and game 2. And like we continue to mention, day 1 is, of course, important to setting up your foundation for becoming the champion of the first FNCS, of the year. However, day 2 is so much more important to perform even better or just as good, because the points are worth 1.5 times as much. It's almost like not necessarily a comeback mechanic, but a true mechanic to solidify the momentum if you can keep it. Looking at the standings here, Peterbot and Boyer are leading here in 6th so far. All in all, one of the first teams to crack that triple-digit point. And Cam and Aminish, another team that we haven't covered too much of or really have spoke about their strategy, have seemingly found themselves in a very consistent flow so far.
Yeah, Cam and Aminish just waiting things out for these Legion Tower grunts to spawn in so they can look to try and secure that forecast key card. But for Peterbot and Pollo, I saw Baka and Pars off in the horizon. Would almost expect that it's because of the fact Baka and Pars very likely going to challenge Peterbot and Pollo for the forecast tower that spawns a little bit east of Reclaim Villa. We'll have to wait and see, though, whether that hunch holds up, because Ritual and Reed, on the other hand, they've got forecast tower completely wide open. No one looking to challenge. Ritual and Reed just having a fully established base at this forecast tower. And gotta be excited to see what they're planning on doing. Having the zone knowledge for the duration of match number 3.
You have to think about it. If they have it this easy, right? Like securing this forecast tower day 1, will teams review and come back to that day 2 and try to potentially take their hand at Reed and Ritual, or will they just allow them to quite possibly walk away with a free FNCS Grand Finals? And I say free because they have such an advantage knowing where every single next zone will go. It kind of reminds me back when Bila won his FNCS Grand, his finals championship, essentially. They had center map. They were so positioned. He and Peterbot just ran away with the most advantageous position on the map, and it clearly showed in their playstyle how they were able to take advantage of it. That is how strong having a forecast tower can determine your tournament run. So if teams don't adjust and they allow Reed and Ritual to, patch up the mistakes they made in game 1, they're going to start to take away a pretty monstrous lead. It's going to be hard to close that gap.
I'm right there with you. Everything, as far as day 1 is concerned, you can never really get too comfortable with your game plan, with your Storm Surge strategy, because again, like you just touched on, Monster, very strong likelihood that some teams are going to review and, again, look to adapt towards those day 2 challenges, or at least try and pose more of a challenge to some players that might have had a little bit more of a luxurious stroll here in our first day of competition. But this is the halfway point.
I'm curious right now if Epic Whale and Clix have an idea if there's a team there. I see Clix looking outwards to the edge, but there's a lot of movement happening there, not only in the distance, but just in front of them. Oh, once again, this Quanti is in their sights here. They just don't get enough of them. It just seems like their rotates, their pathways just seem to continue to connect. So a little repeat of game 2 happening here in game 3, but a completely different area of the map. Jumping on over to Reed and Ritual, a team that knows that they have to fight here. Have Jiven cornered out right now, and Reed has opponent right above him, which is, of course, Jiven's teammate.
Yeah, Piggle and Jiven looking to give Ritual and Reed a run for their money, but already highlighted a little bit earlier on today, Piggle definitely the fragger between these two as far as those semi-stats are concerned. But Piggle and Jiven maybe bit off a little bit more than they could chew. It is still Reet and Ritual that are bearing down upon the likes of Jiven and Piggle. Decent shot, though, traded out here as Reet down to 62 shield. It's going to look to get a little bit of height overhead, but oddly enough, Ritual actually going to opt to fall back momentarily. Probably scouting out the fact that at the bottom of this hill, there's another duo that could potentially be looking to try and pose a threat. Don't want to get caught up in a third-party situation.
Funny enough, I was just talking to Destiny's Jesus about how I continue to butcher my boy Jiven's name, but I've been doing it for years now. So I apologize.
It's tradition.
It's just tradition at this point. Everyone knows the NBF special. But look at this cluster of Paper and Muzz here. They're next to all the other top 10s, and then Clix and Epic Whale right now are finding themselves in what will be the most critical battle for them to finish up, and they do get X-Pawn. I was just going to say, this is for Surge. This is for positioning. This is for getting themselves comfortable in the game, and you can tell that they really chose this battle wisely. Another time where they single out an individual and just full send on the singular player. They could have jumped on Quanti just a little bit ago. We just hinted at that. However, they decided not to fight Quanti and his duo and instead go for a more advantageous fight, and they find exactly just that. Epic Whale and Clix are honestly playing like an extremely top-tier duo. This is very exciting to watch them continue to develop and catch their moments like this.
What's even more impressive, though, about what Clix and Epic are accomplishing here today is you have to factor in this was a duo that didn't even get to practice the new Surge thresholds, because you have to remember when it was first optioned for a method of practice, it was in the duo Cash Cup, right? Clix and Epic, they didn't qual for that. And yet, still here today, they are showcasing that they were still able to develop a strategy aside from that being a problem, because so many players would love to get a little bit of set lobby practice. Even if it's not the grand set lobby, it's still set lobby practice, especially for such a massive change like the Surge thresholds having been impacted. So Clix and Epic, they've clearly got something figured out here, and it's working for them. We're just going to have to hope that this isn't a caster's curse building in the process.
Well, so do Cooper and Miro here. They've jumped up roughly 45 spots from game 1 to game 2, putting themselves right up at the top of the totem pole here. They're in 8th here on the tournament standing so far as we start leaning into game 3, and it's exciting to see them actually catch their footing. And same thing for Day and Redux, who were some of the first teams eliminated game 1 and game 2, and now they're actually starting to make their way into a mid-game. You can never really count Day out. Can't forget he's had so many extreme moments of greatness. Redux is a competitor who's been around for a very long time. Slowly has been working his way up into the top tier echelon of teammates and playing with better and better duos season after season. This is his time to prove something big. They can't allow themselves to get pushed over the way they did in the upper and lower brackets. They have to continue to truly turn up.
Day and Redux. A little bit of problem here posed by Higher and Raze. The longer this engagement takes, the easier it's going to be for another team to potentially place spoiler alert to both of these duos. Day and Redux likely well aware of the fact that they're probably drawing in more company. They want to see if they can acquire just a little bit more damage, just a knock or an elimination. Get some material refresh. They came here, were able to secure a cash, but now they're going to be one of the first teams to disengage as Day, Redux, even if they weren't able to find the damage that they'd necessarily been after, at the same time, they don't want to risk finding themselves eliminated or getting caught up, pincered between several of those teams.
Yeah, you can't just keep throwing away games like that when you have a pretty bad game 1, game 2. You're game 3, you're alive this long. You just got to do what you got to do to stay alive a little bit longer, see if something better comes your way. And for them, 2 a.m. Golden was there. Tahi just showed up. It was all types of bad. I don't blame them for rotating out. I think it's the wisest decision they could have made. Now on over to Rise and Yamza, though, who have continued to trend in the right direction here. Still continuing to find themselves here at the top of the standings. Something went terribly wrong in game number 2 as Yamza was taken out very early, but Rise, man, talk about an incredible play, even as a solo when we watched him dive into those boxes for refreshers on his own. I'm thinking that's a team that is going to be a serious contender for the top of the standings here if they continue to stay alive as a duo. Now on over to Duke and Threats, though. We're just looking for Surge here, fishing for something big.
I mean, you're talking about teams that had issues in the last match. Duke, certainly familiar with that sensation. Unfortunately enough, looking to try and 180 things here in the halfway point of today's matches. But Duke and Threats, they've got... It's decent elevation, sure. But at the same time, there doesn't really seem like anybody's actually coming near them. They're likely going to have to leave that position sometime soon. Because if they're under as far as their search threshold is concerned, if you can't find anybody, if you can't see anybody, chances are even the people that are near you, they're probably not peeking. So Duke of Threats likely going to have to just be forcibly aggressive soon enough here. Peterbot pokes his head out for 1 second. Have to assume that it was just a sniper shot that he ate, given the damage applied. That 110 does not feel good.
I just saw a huge elimination, too, happen in the feed where Ritual seemingly took on Cam. Don't forget, Cam and Aminish, sleeper duo, was sitting at the pretty highly, pretty respectably on the standing after those first 2 games. So to get a little update there shortly, but Cold and Acorn right now have Edgy and Tavern here just next door. So much history between Acorn, Edgy, and all the other teams that have accolades on the West, but nothing's going to turn out from this here. Hold up, little engagement here.
Nada and Agers, though. It's going to be Veer coming out on top for that one. But again, as things start to pick up, some of these teams rotating north, Reckless Railways, and recognize the fact there's going to be a little bit of congestion one more time, building up towards that south side. All these teams looking to escape Reckless Railways, potentially getting held up even by some of these players here on top of the Rift Island. Could be looking to take some shots downwards. Peterbot Pollo, they're actually below as far as their damage threshold is concerned. Probably won't be long here. That's why we see it's not desperation necessarily when it's Peterbot. He's always this aggressive, but he will get punished for it. When you go for those super direct challenges, it's not always a guarantee that you're going to come out on top here.
We just love to see, you know, the history clash head-to-head here. Pollo, Peterbot, and then on the other side, Baila is the team that's contesting here alongside Quanti. All of these teams, not only once in previous, of course, ex-teammates, but now on the other side of the fence going head-to-head, toe-to-toe. And just on the other side, you have Cooper and Miro listening to everything that's going down right now. What a dangerous Rift Island if we've ever seen one. And Peterbot and Pollo, little do they know, have their work cut out for them if they stick around here a little too long, and it's Miro and Cooper end up getting a fair share of the defense here from Pollo so far. But the zone's revealed itself. They're definitely going to have to roll out of here shortly. It just seems like they don't want to be the first to go.
The other problem, though, for Peterbot and Pollo looking kind of scarce there as far as his materials were concerned. Cold, getting pieced up, just using that grapple blade. Didn't get a chance to actually check the bush. And unfortunately, Cold inside of the box. Edgy Tavern from the bush to the box. It's kind of insane when you think of how fast they were able to break into Cold box there.
And it just doesn't stop. It's like they just had a small exchange against Edgy just moments ago, and they grapple bladed away. They just went off into the distance. Acorn and Cold had no idea they'd be lurking this far away in a completely different bush. It could have been any team that decided to rotate this way. And it's just unlucky now for Acorn, who's also below the surge, by the way. So this is going to be one of his only moments right here. One of the most critical times here to find some tags, while you have teams like Piggle here, like Jiven, who have wooden structures in front of them. Yeah, you just have to take these fights. It's just not going to get any easier than this. Not that this is an easy fight by any means for a solo to take on a set of professional players, but he does have something to look forward to, a slight advantage nonetheless there. That's exactly what I'm talking about. The tags creep through the builds.
The only thing Acorn's really got going for him is the fact that Jagvir definitely sandwiched next to his teammate LeBron between a solo in Acorn and a duo in Piggle and Jiven. But at least for right now, LeBron and Jagvir, they don't want to look to immediately challenge. And it's honestly kind of odd that a duo is this unwilling, this hesitant to try and engage with a solo. Hard pressed to believe that Acorn wasn't identified as a solo at least, but still, the damage that he applied was intimidating enough.
Yeah, and you have to think about it. You have to think about they were in wood builds too, right? And in a very vulnerable position. So it's just showing you the lack of experience sometimes in these big lobbies. So look at this. Fully experienced Epic Whale jumps in and finds himself 2 for his troubles. 1 onto Boyo there and another in the low ground. Boyo and Peterbot cleaned up, wrapped up, and talking about experienced professional players. Acorn with the turn and burn here with all the pressure of the lobby on his back, continuing to press on to the neck here of Golden here. The pressure too hard to overcome right now. And just like that, he's still in the game here, earning points.
That was Booga. That Acorn is just 180 pumping to the face, by the way. Booga sees Acorn distracted, tries to prey upon him, instead gets his face ripped off for it. That is an absurdly insane shot there from Corn. And the fact that he came out on top and is able to extend the placement possibilities for Cold and himself, absolutely insane stuff there.
We'll take a look at Epic Whale. We turn away, and he gets taken down there on the outskirts, but not before, of course, taking a bunch of players with him. At least it allows him to mitigate the blow to the standings that those implications are going to have for him falling a little too early here in this endgame. However, Acorn is positioned on a pretty high spot here of this mountain, and it's going up and over. This is a great overall spot to be in right now, as he's going to have free opportunities to make the rotates, and also who is now likely his arch nemesis of the lobby. Edgy and Tavern are sitting up top. And look at this, Bold in the open, Paper and Muzz just walking around in the snow here, fearlessly trying to conserve material. Big moves are going to come out, though. That's right.
It's crazy how quickly they're able to get up and over this mountain face. Will claim themselves a mid-ground position. But checking back in with Acorn, he does have a couple of small shield potions. Unfortunately, his position also being known there, just gets immediately ran down by Yuumi. A decently sized refresh there, too, with that elimination onto Acorn. Sitting here now, though, with Iamzo and Rise, kind of just waiting to see if anybody's going to actually potentially look to just like tarp over their current layer. That if they're able to pick somebody off from above, could give them grounds to keep moving forward. Paper and Muzz, we talked about how out in the open they were, but maybe a little bit too exposed here as Paper loses practically all of his HP for it.
And off the side of the mountain he goes. And I was just going to say, the team we need to be looking out for is Re and Ritual, as they know where the zone is going every single game. And I'm curious to see how well positioned they are. Take a look at it. They are extremely positioned with material. They just need more damage. And this is what I'm talking about. Re and Ritual can run away with the entire FNCS Grand Finals just off the knowledge alone when a difficult terrain like this presents itself. What better thing than to understand, other than where the zone is going next? And you can see how it's playing its way out in spades here, because not only that, they have practiced so very well. For Muzz, the difficult battle continues now as he loses paper, but he's at the front side of zone here. He actually finds elimination as he looks back there, and he is cooking right now here, getting very, very comfortable. Actually, someone might have taken the credit for that one, but still, nonetheless, placement points are really starting to rack up here. A top 15 presents itself. The other side of Yamzo, all the way down to the low ground, switches to the hard material, loses his teammate on the landing, and now he's going to have to fight for it.
The problem that Yamzo and Rise just encountered is the fact that when you're using that grapple blade to try and tackle that frontside low, especially in a zone that's moving towards that downside of the elevation, it is just so difficult not to draw the whole attention of the lobby. We've got Byla sitting up way up above everybody else here, but Byla got to have some Flowberry Fizz or a grapple blade, because it's only a matter of time before he gets chopped there. Have to expect at least from the veteran experience inside of this lobby. Muzz just trying to sneak his way through these low ground builds. Ritual now going to spot out. There is, in fact, a solo way up above everybody else, but
they know. I think he knows. Yes, he does. He recognizes Quanti was up there. You are not safe. And they end up popping a couple of shots here. But again, they have the knowledge of where the zone's going to go. Look at how they get to the next security position here, right up above. And it's cost them a lot of material, but it is worth it as they turn and just destroy players round after round here. And Yamzo takes advantage of all the chaos. He's scaling up the side of these builds. He doesn't have any mats to work with. He doesn't care, though. He's just trying to get up and over, and he's just going to have to fight his way through. He finds Nazi, but there's not enough time for him to pick up the med kit. Meanwhile, Threat's playing for the heal off. And one thing to note, Taco, all of these games have truly gone the distance. There have been just battle after battle. It really hasn't even looked like heal offs were a potential by any means, but this game right here, I think the story's the same. I think it's going to go all the way to the end, and it's going to come down to who can hit their shots.
Everybody down to their last build. Batman Booga doesn't even have any left. The elimination, Siphon Materials out of threats, though. Will buy a little bit of time, and Baka, no chance. Batman Booga finding the elimination there at the end.
And that's what happened. We just talked about. If a heal off was even possible, it does not look like it. Even Batman Booga in that moment was like, dude, I need shield. We have to fight for this. And he had 2 medkits. He could have possibly even won the game just with those heals, but it is not going to be enough. This time, everything turns upside his head, but information is king. Take a look at Re and Ritual. The dominant positioning from the high ground. They turn this entire spot around here, and they, again, not only have the information, but they execute so well in finding the eliminations too.
And look, for Re and Ritual, you know that they've got full control of that forecast hour. At least we know that much. But the fact that they were able to just overtake the high ground and just watch as the ants underneath them essentially destroy themselves. It was a good attempt, though. Out of you have to respect it from Batman Booga as well. But Re and Ritual just fully benefiting off of letting the lobby wipe itself out.
Well, with the way they came back in game number 2 and the way now they really break away with a crazy lead here in game 3, who can stop them, Zeke? We're just going to have to find out.
You know, this being only game number 3, I'm hopeful that the rest of the lobby can go, maybe we have some kind of hope. Maybe there's some way we can stop this duo. First off, really quickly, we got to acknowledge that was a very difficult zone. Yeah. Those moving zones were brutal, but again, paired up with the fact that these guys had forecasts, they knew where the zones were going. They had that opportunity to say, okay, well, we know how we can attack this situation. Let's make the best of it. Let's make sure everyone down low is scrambling while we're just chilling. And they walk away with the victory royale.
Yeah, honestly, forecast how strong it really is just amplified whenever we have zones like that. These big mountains, sometimes it's very, very dangerous to go ahead and like guess which way you actually want to early rotate to. And the fact that forecast is telling you, hey, listen, you're going to have to go here next, it just sets you up so well.
Yeah, we saw Re Ritual kind of stick to the low ground. And honestly, this reminded me a lot of what we saw from them in the qualifiers, where because they had the forecast tower, they were able to stay on the edge of zone, peek onto all the other lower and mid-ground teams, and grab a great amount of eliminations. By also having control of the zone, they were able to peek up high, they were able to chop Quanti, and this was just their tried and true position that they had in the qualifiers, where they chop the high ground team, they're able to take high ground, and here it is when they were able to chop down Quanti, who somehow was a solo on high ground there. And with this observation, they're able to steal high ground and then hold it for the rest of the game.
Perfect play out of Re and Ritual. And listen, after game number 1, right, they didn't necessarily go their way. After 2 good games in a row, you have to imagine that they are just flying up the leaderboard right now. And oh my gosh, Zeke, listen, we saw the leaderboard after game number 2, and it was close. A lot of our top teams were up there. We may have been missing Re and Ritual, right? A lot of people think that they deserve to go ahead and actually win this thing. I'm sure we're going to be seeing them at least like, what, top 4, top 3? I don't know.
They're very likely going to be that high, because keep in mind, they came into that game in 20th place. And now the standings will tell us everything. After that fantastic game, after the Victor Royale, they now, look at this, 4th place, up 15 places, 147 points. But as we turn our attention back up to the top of the leaderboard, Buzz and Paper, they continue this dominance. They will not give up that number 1 spot.
No, they will not. And again, it was one of those instances where Paper went down early. Muzz had to go ahead and clutch up a couple of points there to keep them up top there. Yamzo and Rise still close behind. But Kelly, I think we got to go ahead and shout out Cooper and Mira, because same kind of similar situation to Ritual and Re. Cooper and Mira actually went down early off spawn in game number 1. They are currently contested right now, but game number 3 right there, they outdropped the people contesting them by an absolute mile. And that's why they're still in contention up here in top 3.
Yeah, Veer and Sinento recognized real quick, like, oh, there's no way we're even going to be able to take this fight on Marigold. So they went and dropped a different position. Here we have second page, where we have the likes of Clicks and Epic Whale, unfortunately dropping down just a little bit, but still in 11th place. Quanti and Bylot doing a lot better than we've seen them in the previous chapter. In 15th place right now, of course, Dukes and Threats is going to be in 14th place. And I think a little bit of a surprise is Peterbot and Boyo dropping down 7 placements and being in 13th place.
And that just speaks to the nature of the competition, right? This is still so close. And this is something Vivid mentioned like earlier on in the day, that this competition very well could be the closest we've seen, just because, I mean, every time we tune in a game, there's been different duos that all have these like highlight moments. Viv, everyone has eyes on one thing, a spot to the global champions.
Yeah. And listen, there's kind of like a hidden storyline here that I want to remind everybody of after game number 3, right? We're halfway through. That first place spot after day number 1 may mean a little bit more than we think, because the last 3 NA FNCS champs have been in first overall after day number 1. So if that trend kind of continues, Kelly, we may know who's winning after these next 3 games.
Well, if we're talking about history and consistency, then Yamzo and Rise, currently in second place, are a day 2 team, or at least they were in chapter 4. Ooh. And with this performance right now, they're tied for the most amount of eliminations, I think that they're the duo to beat.
Okay. Listen, honestly, I think Kanata and Aders, they've had a rough go at it so far, right? A couple of surprise things coming their way, whether it be being contested all spawn or some of their mid-game rotations. They haven't really get to try much out, because they're dealing with so much unprecedented, surprising all spawn situations that honestly their game plan seems a little bit shaky right now. Hopefully they get the all spawn situation sorted out, and we'll see Kanata and Aders in one of these end games as well, Zeke.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this is day 1, right? We have only 3 more games left to go. Tomorrow we'll have 6 brand new games. And so look, some duos, they heat up on day number 2. So don't give up hope. We still have a lot of Fortnite to watch. With that being said, it's that time. We got more to watch right here, right now. So take it away, Taco and MDF.
That's right. There's so much to watch here. There's so much more action that's going to continue to unfold here before our eyes. But the question still remains, who will turn the tables here and start to fight the teams that have clear accessibility to the Storm and the forecast towers? Taco, it's an advantage that if the foundation is set here, there's no looking back for day 2.
Forecast Tower is probably one of the most surefire ways to try and replicate your game-by-game consistency, because As we all know, consistency is what reigns true in these 12-match formats, MDF, especially when we think about that 1.5 times point multiplier that will be active during the course of day 2's competition. But here in day 1, by the way, can I just say, it's definitely a little bit absurd. Peterbot Pollo, they've got a victory royale, and yet they are in 13th place based off the points currently in the leaderboard. Things have been moving.
Yeah, it really shows you that consistency is going to play its part. But here in game number 4, we'll see who can make it past the halfway mark now. All right, well, a win clearly isn't just going to give you a ride to the top 10. You're going to have to do much more than that. You're going to have to continue to fight for it round after round. And in fact, fight for it the way Muzz and Paper have done it. We know their draw spot has been no walk in the park, but they've managed to overcome their adversity and just continue to stay consistent. A team that's having a hard time, I feel like, is Kanata and Agers, as they were, you know, again, the victims of Cooper and Miro's drop success, because last game they pushed out Snetto and Veer and then had to fight that duo there shortly after. This time, Cooper and Miro seemingly don't have the best drop and they get beat to the punch, but they're not, you know, so anxious that they want to throw their tournament away by any means.
That actually looked like Cooper and Miro veering off because they see Sunito and Veer at the Marigold, but there was also another team there. So somebody definitely switched up their drop. Chance probably wishes he had dropped anywhere else other than directly in front of Pars. All too happy to snag up that Elim. Baka will find the other onto Aaron. As now Baka, Pars, this is probably one of the fastest fight completions we have seen them secure those eliminations so far here today. And that could be a real difference maker because Baka and Pars, they've been getting pushed relentlessly by so many other teams. Even if they win that initial off-spawn fight, have to expect more traffic coming in towards that west side of the map there by Reclaim Villa because of the fight. That's a possibility on that forecast tower later on.
Absolutely, it will be. But here's Rapid and Bugha, who's been continuously contested here. Drop after drop, they found themselves, you know, kind of edging their way out of the top 10 for some time. But with these sets of eliminations, they'll get ever so closer to remaining inside the top 15. We'll see what Batman, Bugha, and Rapid can do. They've trended in the right direction after winning their drop game after game. Clix and Epic Will, however, we've seen their successes. We've seen them shine in some great end games. We know when they make it that far, they're willing to jump up for the high ground. But hold up, Clix might just have, a little too much pressure in here. Epic Will comes in to support. You never really know at the Lavish Lair. We've seen clips in the past of, you know, the AI putting in their fair share of work and honestly even eliminating teams, depending on if they catch you completely off guard. But
Oscar is vicious, man.
He's a beast.
Same could be said, though, for Acorn. 2 eliminations. And with Mason having been that secondary one, poor Empen, likely the first. But for Acorn and Cold, though, here at Fencing Fields, again, another team that really needed that fast elimination timer because there is so much to threaten them at this POI. They will get inside the vault, though. So Cold and Acorn having control of the Society Medallion here at Fencing Fields means they've also got that Mythic Striker, commonly referred to as the best assault rifle in the game, or maybe just the best weapon in the game right now.
Well, Fear Diminished, another team, like we said, started off very, very hot the game 3. It's quickly revealed itself to be one of the more difficult ones. And now the pressure continues. The teams, they're starting to engage now, much different than any game before, considering Miro and Cooper are, feels like just winging it, right? Playing it by the ear. And this time they are going to go for the forecast tower. So they are definitely throwing a wrench in everyone's game plans right now. You know, it's one of those things, you get into a skirmish against a duo and you start to feel them out. You start to decide, are these guys good? Is this a team we're capable of beating? And then you see the accuracy behind the controller of Miro and a player like Cooper, and you're like, yeah, probably not worth it. Give them the forecast tower.
Muzz just so patient, keeping a very dedicated eye towards the duo that is trying to build a moderate sky base. Clearly a team that wants that elevation so they can look to confirm their own Surge tags. Slightly different story here, though, for Vorteca and Sigma. It's Golden posing a little bit of a threat here next to Ozone, but with Vorteca and Sigma controlling the upper layers, it's all going to come down to whether or not either side can find that first knock, that first elimination. Reed and Ritual certainly keeping the pressure applied here up against the likes of Ducky and Encrypted. And it's just this split approach causing so many issues for Encrypted and Ducky. They just don't know which way to look because they've got pressure on both sides of their boxes.
There's a lot going on right here. Reed and Ritual need to end this fight pretty quickly if they want to continue to have a smooth game the way they have been, and they really can't afford to drop another round this soon, especially now that they finally have got themselves comfortably off the Victory Royale into the top 5. This is where they want to be. This is where they should be, considering they have the forecast tower game after game. But like we said, a player like Ducky, a player like Encrypted, they're seeing the successes roll game after game, and they want to take their hand at this opportunity. And this is what we should have expected, likely since game number 1, to be fair.
That's a good bite back, though, from Ducky and Encrypted up against the likes of Reed and Ritual. But unfortunately for Ducky and Encrypted, it won't be enough to prevent Reed and Ritual from securing that forecast tower. And so now Ritual likely just going to take their time because they were able to exchange enough blows there. Definitely acquired a decent amount of Surge tag damage. Same can't be said for some of these other teams still hanging around towards the northern side of the map here. Noxy and Crisp. They seemingly want to try and look for an aggressive opportunity here. A couple of tags will connect from Crisp. But it's still not enough. You have to be very aware when you're hanging out in this area next to the Classy Courts. Even though there's a good amount of trees to provide some coverage, when you start making your way, the Gravel Blade, up some of this mountain face elevation, that'll be the chance for the other teams in the area to try and get their revenge, get some damage exchanged as well.
Well, already we're getting all the updates that we need here. Yamzo, Rise, looking comfortable. They're not strangers to making noise. They're shooting inside the tunnel here. I wonder what the idea there is, if whether or not they're just trying to scare off teams that might be in the vicinity or attract players towards them, and that's what it is. It's the Yamzo trying to attract players to Rise's bush, and that is such a clever play. Pros don't do things by mistake. It was very intentional. And Taco, you could just see this setup, the trickiness come into play. And sure, they don't get the elimination, but they get incredible tags there, which is still so important.
That was, I mean, Yamzo is definitely sick because that was a nasty strategy, man.
Crazy.
I love the fact that you kind of tell in the first place, like, oh, he wouldn't just be aimless. There's no such thing.
There's no bush.
Pros
right? Like, what are you
level.
shooting?
Incredible
no
stuff,
bush
though.
there. No bush there. Just the tunnel. Very odd maneuvering to do that. And then the moment he looks up at the teammate, everything just starts to click in my mind. I'm like, oh, this is so smart. He's baiting someone. Lo and behold, someone swings over the mountain. What a play. It's the little things that you start to see come to life in the FNCS. And if you ever take the time to go into the replay mode and really look back, you'll find a lot of very interesting moments like that. Very key, moments of trickery at times can be so crucial to the game and make the difference in earning you more and more points. You got to think outside the box. This is the evolution of Fortnite too. You're watching at hand, but back into the action here. Friedelbot and Boyo under pressure right now. All wood expended here at the Ruined Wheels. They continue to fight for it. They're just going to back off for now.
Not going to be an easy matchup there against the likes of Bacon and TK. And keep in mind, Bacon and TK, if they're the ones still remaining at Ruined Reels, typically contested by Maxo and Dolzier. So for Bacon and TK to still be hanging around, likely indicating the fact that they were successful with that initial off-spawn battle. They got off to a really strong start here as well, being Bacon and TK from that first match of the day. The mental fortitude will be what carries the rest of their matches. The Skittles and Trashy. Little fight here now over their combat cache. But the more that you fight, the more attention it draws. Skittles, Trashy, they found their elimination. They collected some goods out of that cache, and now they're ready to just keep powering through, making sure to maintain a good space from the teams that were just posing a threat behind them. But they do spot out Bolts and Zook based up on this hill. They've got to be careful.
Yeah, they just walked in and took Tahi's elimination and walked right on out of there as other teams started to come attracted to the location. But Muzz and Paper also fighting for the cache. We've seen a lot of battles like this happen. You kind of hinted at it before, Taco, that there's kind of like an increase in fights over these weapons caches, and you can see why. Like, why in a grand finals you would want to secure this much excess, heals, essentially, is really what you get, privy to, and then go to fight and still have something to bounce back to keep you in the game. For Epic Will, take a look at, he just wraps up Quanti and Bila back-to-back clicks. Looks like he wins his engagement. And on the other side, Quanti gets cleaned up quickly by Epic here. Early, too, in the game.
Well, look at that. Max mats now for Epic. Ample amounts of medkits surrounding this man. Clicks as well. 3 shield potions available. The Mythic Frenzy. This is shaping up to be a really strong showing here for Clicks and Epic. And yeah, the battles for these combat caches likely to just continue piling up here over these next couple of games, MDF, because players, whether they want the heals and materials that those combat caches will be able to convert into, it's more so just the opportunity to find a possible elimination from the other team that looks to challenge for that cache.
Ugraviv have a team in sight, and they're inching their way forwards. And I like that they're trying to tempt out this opponent, see what it is that they wanted to do, but they just disengaged. They don't want anything to do with any of the players here. Back on over to Reet and Ritual, who have, again, had a pretty difficult time, it seems like, getting situated shortly after having to fight for the first time for their forecast tower here. And we knew what it was going to cost them, right? It was going to cost them time. It was going to cost them positioning. And you're seeing the bulk, the weight of all that difficult, engagement play out here. And look at that. The shotguns. Reed doesn't even know where it comes from, by the way. Look, he didn't even block the left side. He was looking to the right still. And now I think it starts to make sense here as the information floods in.
And what's also interesting is the team that shot out that crash pad, which prevented Reet from being able to follow Ritual as effectively as he had intended. You could see the arrows from that other team. Take note of where Reet and Ritual were at in that little river dip in. It's honestly pretty lucky there for Reet and Ritual that they didn't end up as a possible solo, all things considered. Because normally when the crash pad goes, and the rotation is a lot more difficult to come by. Easy to eat some shots that you weren't necessarily expecting before. It's Cooper with an elimination now, forcing Blake to be a solo. That's going to be Macwood, picked off by our global championship duo. And Mira and Cooper, keep in mind, they made a last-minute swerve at the start of this game from their initial drop. They did not want to look for that triple contest at the Marigold. So for them, having to adjust their entire gameplay strategy because they're not following their original loot path. They're not following their originally intended rotational path either, which means that they've had to probably implement new methods as well to look for surge tag opportunities, like what Muzz just experienced. Nearly got his shields cracked, but he does have 2 shield potions to get back to full if he so desires.
And this is crazy. This is our first place team right now, still alive, but not necessarily the most comfortable. They are a ways away from being well above the surge, like Clix and Epic Whale are right here. And Clix and Epic Whale are on a completely opposite side. They don't have to push out to fight teams, but a team that seems to have a problem with the Storm Surge coming towards them. So I'd be more curious to see if they play a little more defensively, let the time tick a little more. If I had to guess, they're just going to continue to bait them in, draw them in, so things become super favorable, and then turn things around. I was going to say, buildings don't float in Fortnite, though. There's no foundation. So down it all comes. Luckily, Clix and Epic Whale were already close to the ground here, and they're just going to start to force things out a little bit more. The WTJ duo is pressuring heavily now, and this is about where Clix, I think, is going to be about fed up with it as they've went through 500 mats already, all of his heavy brick material used up. And yeah, look, they're going to get out of here. They're not going to grant this team the opportunity to farm them for surge.
Perfect player discipline, though, by Clix and Epic. Because, again, look at their damage threshold. They are 414 above. They don't need to risk having to expend their shield resources or their mat resources. In fact,
they have the mats there.
Clix going to be able to track back, pick up a handful of materials, have to imagine, from builds that they were in previously. So just falling back to their little safety net. Ritual and Reet, though, that's a huge play there from Ritual. Not the first time we've seen it either. But Ritual probably hoping that he won't have to go for those repeat clutch circumstances.
And they absolutely needed that. They needed not only the damage to stay comfortable, but he needed to clutch this up in order to stay inside of the top 5 right now. And it is cutthroat. Cooper and Miro were just a point ahead queuing into here. And the Yamzo and Rise, Muzz and Paper were 10 and 20 points just about in the distance, so they cannot afford to let their foot off the gas pedal right now. They need to stay consistent and in the running right here, especially after coming off of the last victory. Jumping in, though, in Ritual position up right next to the first place team. Little do they know this could be huge implications for everyone involved right now. And Paper and Muzz are looking to poise up to potentially ram their vehicle figuratively into Reet and Ritual, who just came out the zone because they need to likely find some tags. They just haven't gotten comfortable, but no, they make a different decision instead. They skate out the side.
Muzz and Paper break left. Reet and Ritual go right. But as far as Sphinx and Pump are concerned, they're just going to aim for dead center. Good crash pad. Just going to launch them straight into edge of zone here, but the journey has only just begun. Whenever you find yourself a little bit later on those rotates, makes it all the easier for players that are already situated like Rise, like Yamso. Take note. Try and tag you up along the way. Pump and Sphinx do have a way to replenish their shields off those shield potions, but we see Reet, we see Ritual making their way through the river on another hill here. Peterbot, Pollo, taking their time to decide. They're not really too pressed to look for damage opportunities, well above that damage threshold being 400 above, just about. Peterbot and Pollo, though, likely understanding the fact they're going to probably have to try and eliminate a team if they want to rotate by means of the bridge.
Yeah, and honestly, they just need to start earning points as well. They're trailing behind a significant amount, some of our other game leaders, but Yamzo and Rise, this is not looking good. It seems like they burned through all their heals just to survive the storm surge for this long, and unfortunately now the lobby starts to turn on them in this massive piece of congestion. They're sitting in between here. They have Bryson Chubbs, but they have pressure coming in from the team up above. The high ground team is also underneath the surge, so anything could really happen here. And take a look. We knew this was going to be a problem for Muzz and Paper if they didn't fight. They played too passively. They ran away from too many teams. And now they're also likely to be a team to get taken out. So first and second place right now could very likely fall out of this game. And already, look, Muzz have to do something incredible, and he does enough. He does enough to at least find some tags, but can Iamzo and Rise do enough too? They know that they cannot fall down. They need a singular tag. They get one, and it's enough to at least keep them alive for now, but the pressure is still looming. They want to find another one here. And look, they don't even get to reap the rewards, the benefits of the eliminations by any means. This team underneath them is also under surge. Bryson Chubbs could have very well been a team to get eliminated by them, but Iamzo and Rise are holding on to dear life here.
It's just
and they land on Muzz.
It's a late rotate, though, MDF. It's taken Iamzo and Rise too long to find their way heading towards that zone. Everyone else already poised up ahead of them. Muzz, recognizing the fact it's solo v solo, he'll take the dots here as Iamzo will fall. But now Muzz, all these pre-existing builds immediately spotted out as well for trying to hang towards that backside of the zone. Will be forced to use his med kit probably a little bit earlier than anticipated. Not going to try to take his odds up next to the bridge. Good grapple blade, propels him forward. But with no means of replenishing his shields, he's going to have to just take his chances with his team directly in front of him. Seek doing what he can. Muzz cranking as fast as he can, but it's just not going to be enough. He'll find himself falling shortly after. Gets a couple of placement points, though, at least for his troubles.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one very important thing to point out there is that he made it close to top 20. It may not seem significant, but for every team that falls, you know, it does get you one step closer. So those placement points will at least allow them to stay in the game to some degree there. And their lead is now up in the air as Cold and Acord are just turning online right now. While all this is happening, Clix is starting to find his tags with the sniper. And not only that, onto a very important team, Rapid and Bugha, who have been contested, Batman Bugha that is, every single game, but they are still in the top 15 in the running for a tournament position this weekend. Clix and Epic, though, inching their way towards the conversation of FNCS Grand Finalist winners potentially. They are still on track here to remain at the top 10.
I've always been a firm believer that sometimes things will happen that kind of just set the tone of how your day is going to go. And for Clix, game number 1 of today, 3 headshot snipes. And it seems like he's just been connecting nonstop with this Reaper sniper rifle ever since, posing such a massive threat to everyone else in the lobby. Still not going to be an easy feat by any means for Epic or Clix to pave their way through this max pool zone here. It's going to be tough, but they've been enduring a fair share of their own battles as is. You can see some of that storage coming out. Teams being attacked all over, trying to get above that damage threshold. Miro Cooper slightly above. Trying to see if there's an opportunity here. Peek out. Small window edit. Miro Cooper both going to maintain the same line of sight, just trying to attack some of these teams that are set up on the hill across from them. But Ritual.
Well, I want to point out, Miro and Cooper, remember, they fought for the Forecast Tower this game, and they have not stopped putting themselves in a ridiculously strong position every single zone ever since then. But Ritual and Reet had to fight for theirs, and it hasn't been quite the same. Ritual now left to clutch this one up by himself. He caught an absolute pivotal knock right there, but he cannot find the damage on the down body, which is so unfortunate because he needs that damage in order to avoid the damage of the storm. That might just turn on here shortly, but the Elim comes through nonetheless, so he gets the points, and the pressure is still on now to perform, but he's made it far enough. He's near the top 15. Every team that falls here will continue to grant placement points. Meanwhile, Clix and Epic will lead the push here to the front side of zone. They have Acorn, they have Cold next door. This all dangerous low ground, but enough of high ground for them. They want to play a different strat here, and I like this.
Clix still has a decent amount of metal, though, left to work with. Ritual, on the other hand, he's down to exclusively wood builds. Needs a refresh of some form. Trying to see if he can stealth maneuver his way for a pick onto Mew. Elimination opportunity slipping away as Ritual in real time having to recognize the fact, just waited a moment too long. Now he's got to force his way forward, still trying to maintain, hanging out towards the backside of zone, knows that there might be an opportunity, gets a shot into his back. It's going to be Mew. Ritual tries to turn. Not going to be in time, though.
So close, and he couldn't get the finish, and he knew there was a player there, but he thought he was on the left side to make the wrong edit. Either way, back in with Cold and Acorn right now, who are still at 4 eliminations, but they're starting to set themselves up for the end game. Clix and Epic closing in on a top 10 here, too. And look at how quickly now they're starting to close that gap. There were so many points behind before, but now they are really starting to catch momentum here. They're starting to catch the wind in the sails, but Epic was left behind. A player jumps in. Clix leaves the door open for Epic, and unfortunately, he was nowhere there. And it's Boyo who jumps in and takes down Clix.
The deceit.
Look at high ground.
So unfortunate, but Cold, Acorn, it's just a grapple blade up. That is NA strategy for overtaking height or challenging on height. You grapple blade to the high ground, and it's just so crazy that it works, MDF. Cold and Acorn now suppressive fire into all the teams caught in the mid and low ground layer congestion. Tahi, Scented, they've got a deep run going for them this game, but unfortunately the med kits are gonna cut them short of staying inside of the zone. All too easy for Acorn and Cold to take this one home.
And a beautiful, beautiful capture of the final tag in shot here from Cold and Acorn as they put down every single duo in the lobby there at the end. NA is not holding up any types of heal-offs here. What a grand finals we have in front of us. If we thought we were going to get semis level gameplay, you are seeing how far ahead the elevated competition is when we truly get down to the best 100, and you are watching just that. Man City's Cold, one of the most recent pickups, incredible, and of course Dignitas Acorn, the most decorated, continuing to do what they do here at the grand finals. What a great game 4, and not only that, they become the first NA team now to break the 200-point threshold, just really taking the lead here, Taco.
Yeah, Acorn and Cold definitely needed this one in order to leapfrog ahead of some of the control we've been seeing so far out of Muzz and Paper, but gotta feel for Cam and Aminish in that one. Just let their guard down for a moment, but a second is all it takes for Acorn and Cold to gobble up that height take.
Well, we're going to have to check in with Zeke and company to see how the standings are looking after that one.
Dude, there's no way. Acorn and Cold are ice cold. They let Aminish do all the work on the high ground. They said, yeah, dude, you go crazy up there. You're by yourself. Oh, you got high ground. You got that grapple blade friend. You're like, yeah, I got that grapple blade. Let's go. All right, cool. A high ground is now ours. And then by that point, literally everyone else in the lobby burnt through everything they had. Easy cleanup for Acorn and Cold. I mean, they just got away with everything in this game.
In a meta where, you know, your floppers, your med kits, we've been seeing it all season. Those heals, they've been used at the end of the game to win the game. Acorn and Cold, it's a play we have seen before, but not this season. Because like I just said, we've been seeing those meds used to actually win the game. But what about using them and then just sticking out into the storm and then taking higher ground based off of that position? Acorn and Cold, what a play to bring out in grand finals to secure the high ground and the victory royale in game number 4. Kelly, they got to be at the top of the leaderboard after that incredible play.
I mean, we're going to take a quick look now at Clix. Oh, just kidding. So yeah, Cam and Aminish were on high ground for a pretty good amount of time. Yeah. And typically when you're on high ground, you look to the front of zone, you try and see where everyone is below you, and that allows you to kind of stop height takes. But no one thinks to look 1,000 feet behind them. And I swear Acorn and Cold used the longest reach that you could with those grapple blades and were able to steal high ground in a way that I haven't seen in a long time. That was absolutely courageous and dangerous at the same time, and they deserve their spot.
Look at that.
They already got a second place, so to grab a first place on top of that, I mean, this is the duo to watch. We knew after Cash Cup that they were riding on a high, and to see them take that high and bring it to high ground It feels good.
I mean,
like what
yeah,
you did there.
listen, you know, it's a big question, right? What was going to happen over at Fencing Fields? Were they going to be able to make it out? And honestly, listen, I've been talking them up throughout qualifiers, throughout semis, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to pick a different team to go ahead and win this thing. And they're proving me wrong for even daring to pick somebody else, because they are not only winning some of these fights in Fencing Fields, they're just getting out of it in such a good position every game. They really do deserve to win this so far after 4 games.
Just wow. This was like the game to bust out strats that we just haven't seen, right? We saw this from Acorn and Cold. From Iamzo and Rise, Iamzo running around just sending shots where everyone's head scratching.
Yes.
What's happening? Why is something wrong? And then he's like, no. This was all part of my plan. You've fallen into my trap. NA is heating up like crazy. Let's take a look at the standings. How are things going? Have Muzz and Paper finally been dethroned? The answer, yes, by Acorn and Cold. But take a look at the other names who are looking to fight as well. Cooper and Miro, global champions. Ritual and Reek, guys, this is going crazy.
Cooper and Miro still holding on to the top of the leaderboard here, right where there's like 12 barrel spawns. They got instantly 100 shield, and they played from a completely different scenario. So that was great to see from them. And we got some big changes down the rest of the leaderboard though as well.
What's crazy to me is that Cooper and Miro, if they didn't have that game 1 where they went down on drop in 45th place, they would have all top 5 placements. Cooper and Miro are able to hold a 2nd place spot, even with a 45th game, because of how consistent they are. And if I'm going to talk about consistency, I'm going to talk about the team that I've consistently talked about, and that's, of course, Ritual and Reap. Once again, Ritual had an incredible solo run. Between both of these players, they're able to hold out in the solo game. I just want to see them be able to stick together at the very end, because that's where they do the best. And we're going to watch a few moments. You can see here that they had some issues with Storm Surge, which is a little bit surprising, especially when they have the element of the forecast tower. They should be able to stay in the front of zone, but I'm guessing that there was some mid-game issues here. Regardless, Rico's down early. Ritual, though, able to stay alive and grab eliminations as well.
Storm Surge has been absolutely crazy. Remember when we showed at the beginning of the show, we were like, hey, listen, here's the average Storm Surge values that, you know, the players saw throughout semifinals and their qualifying games. And it was around 100 damage for Zone 5. Throughout those games so far, throughout the first 3 games, it has now doubled up to 200. So it is really brutal out there. Pay attention to how much damage our players are doing throughout every single game, because it is important. Let's take a look here at page number 2, Zeke. Peterbot and Pollo fighting back. They go up 2 places. And yeah, listen, Zeke, with 2 games left on the day, how are you kind of feeling?
I'm worried, Biff. I'm worried.
Okay.
I feel like Acorn and Cold. The problem is with these kind of formats, right? You have 2 days, and you really want to try and keep the top end as close as possible. Acorn and Cold are now pulling maybe a little too far away, right? We're giving them a little bit too much freedom. If we're not careful, we could go into day 2 with a really big problem, Viv. I'm pretty worried, man.
Yeah, listen, they could really establish a lead here, Kelly. I'm excited to see if they can continue throughout Fencing Fields.
Yeah, definitely agree. I mean, Zeke, I just am ready for game 5.
Well, ask and you shall receive. With 2 games left to go, how will we cement this day number 1? Let's find out together. Casters, over to you.
It's just incredible to see the standings really start to take shape now, as Miro and Cooper are hot on the press to potentially go back-to-back from LAN to, of course, at-home environment, just playing out of their, you know, skill set. It seems like they are just far and exceeding the competition here in the lobby. And Taco, I want to see if they actually embrace the forecast tower now. They took that with relative ease for, you know, a dart throw, right? Like, it's a bullseye, if you ask me.
Yeah, it definitely did not seem like their initial strategy. Granted, I think any team that recognizes the fact, okay, we got the forecast tower spawning near us, we definitely want to, at the very least, force whoever else tries to challenge or secure this forecast tower into an uncomfortable position, because then you might end up like Miro and Cooper, might end up being able to steal away that forecast tower. And as we already know, being able to see every zone for the entirety of a game, big way to play things out as we head into match number 5 of the day.
Game number 5 of the Grand Finals is here. The FNCS Grand Finals has been incredible to watch unfold this weekend. If you are just tuning in with us, I'm Monster D-Face alongside the best Taco. We've been calling all the action. It's been absolutely wild to watch the games change round after round and watch the adaptability come into play. This time, Cooper, Miro, they say, you know what, MDF, forget your story about trying out the forecaster. I want to go back to what works best. They get the better drop. They clean up house, and now they have their full natural loop path back and available for them. And the action doesn't stop here. We get straight to Baka and Pars, who tried to finish the fight quickly, just like they did in game 4, Taco, but this time, not so hot here. Pars has to play solo.
But Pars might be able to protect Baka just long enough. He could look for the revive. Was opting to commit, but Chance immediately pressuring in. Frenziato, unfortunately, not going to be enough to win things over. Chance, just a sliver of HP here. Aaron probably celebrating the fact that his duo still left standing. But for how much longer is the real question, MDF. We saw another team on the horizon on that west side of the map. Could be looking to pressure very soon if Chance and Aaron aren't careful. But
what a
different
tough
story.
One. Yeah, just tough though. All in all, when you have, you know, top 10 and nearing top 5 capabilities unfolding for you, and then you get taken out another game. When it comes down to FNCS Grand Finals, any given day, we always say it takes about 4 good games to be up at the top 5 to, you know, win a tournament. And if you have a perfect 6, you are so far in ahead. That is usually about the average. And for Baka and Pars, they've dropped 2 now, but you get into Muzz and Paper, they've already kind of dropped 1, right? So you're starting to see that if you want to stay up towards the top, there are no more mistakes any of our teams can make if they are inside the top 10 currently. They essentially have to play exceptional Fortnite here and out, which is hard to ask, right? When you have teams contested like you're watching right here. There's a reason Acorn and Cold, you know, wasn't necessarily highly highlighted as a team that can walk away with a clear win this weekend. It's because of all of this activity happening here at the Fencing Fields. However, you have a hot signing here, Man City picking up Cold. You know, vibes are probably very good, and this is where they shine best, Grand Finals lobbies.
But triple con at Fencing Fields is still a triple con, MDF. And as for Dad Rooney, lost Seek here in the process of disengagement up against the likes of Bryce and Chubbs next to Hazy Hillside. Dasher Rooney trying to do what he can to close in on Bryce. It's interesting that Dasher Rooney is still willing to give chase here. Seemingly upset, probably just more upset about the fact that he lost his duo. Wanting to make sure that Bryce won't be able to intervene as Dasher Rooney's trying to get a setup going, building some brick around this reboot van. But the reboot van, practically a bat signal, that's going to force Bryce to start running back over. Dasher Rooney, though, very likely to commit here once he's this far invested. No, Bryce won't actually consider interrupting. So a good success there for Dasher Rooney. Gets Seek back into the action. Now 1 versus 2 for Bryce to deal with here at Hazy Hillside.
Let's take a look at this elimination here. Peterbot and Pollo jump in and clean up not only Zabi, but Neko as well here pretty quickly. And just like that, they find themselves with 2 eliminations, continuing to pad up the points, putting them up to 157. This is very good for them, but they do need a lot more material here if they want to get situated for endgame. So plenty of work ahead of Peterbot and Pollo. We talked about it, right? This is a team that literally took a win. We watched it unfold as they destroyed Bugin and Vive in that 2v2 endgame. Things just truly connected. On over to Acorn and Cold, who seemingly have pushed out a team here from a battle, but they've got an elimination for their troubles there, and it might be on to Muzz. Because I just see, no, never mind. That's Paper and Muzz there in the distance. Luckily, the map reveals the color of the coordinates.
Got to be Pen or Mason.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing too, is we're looking at all this experienced teams, right? A nice little fun fact coming in for the start of game number 5 here, as far as our leaderboard is concerned. Our top 5 on the leaderboard, guess what? They're all top 5 teams that are returning duos from last season. So experience definitely proven to be king here so far today. As Cold and Acorn finally going to get an opportunity here. They've closed off Nisha from the rest of the teams still left standing here at Fencing Fields. Empen and Mason, really the only duo that was looking to directly challenge Cold and Acorn at that moment for the claiming of the Society Medallion and that Mythic Striker. Ritual and Reet, though, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And their strategy so far is just securing this forecast tower on the hill in Duppenhausen.
They need to be counting their lucky stars that they weren't contested for the forecast this time, because last game it really affected maybe their mental, very much their game overall. And, you know, I'm very much happy as well that we got to see the struggles that Acorn and Cold are undergoing in the early game, because it really does shape the narrative, the story that they're in first, but not because it's been easy for them by any means. They have had to really, really work for it in their early game situation. Peterbot and Pollo as well. Bit of a different story, right? They win their early game contested fight, and now it's like, where are all the players? Why can't I find something a little more here? But they do have a forecast, of course, as well, right? So a lot potentially to be revealed for them.
Seeing Peterbot and Pollo, though, each with 1 elimination apiece. As far as our Storm Surge values on the day are concerned, in Zone 5, usually looking at around 211 damage before that threshold. Players already limbed for it to be turned off, and it gets quite steep by the time you reach Zone 7 with it being 420.
Oh, biggest elimination of the day, though. Muzz gets taken out by Acorn and Cold, and I'm looking at Paper take off to the races here. This is a terrible position now as he rotates right into Def and Polarized as well. So everyone recognizing we have a solo on the loose here. Polarized and Def, though, they know better than to be overly excited and chase. Discipline kicks in, experience kicks in, and everyone stops for a second, and Paper has to count his lucky stars that it's an experienced team there on the other side, which is going to give him a moment to breathe. But little does he know, he's moving right back into the hands of Acorn and Cold. We've come back to the Frenzy Fields, or the Fencing Fields here. Has Paper picked up Muzz's card? I find that hard to believe, considering there was so much happening there.
This is a real from the frying pan into the fire situation right now for Paper.
Man.
Having just lost Muzz, don't even know if he had that opportunity to get the reboot card, as you just mentioned, MDF, and being sandwiched now between Cold, Acorn, Death, and Polarized. It's almost like every direction that Paper tries to turn is just going to be met with an even more problematic solution. But fortunately enough for Paper, Cold, Acorn, they don't want to stick around the likes of Fencing Field any longer. They want to get a little bit of elevation going, even though they have 2 E-limbs. Could always have more surge tag damage, as Bugha and Aviv getting one of their first eliminations here in match number 5. Decent amount of loot scattered around them as well. And Bugha, checking out his streams, one thing this man certainly loves, it's that lock-on pistol and taking full advantage of any small hill, any little semblance of elevation, because he wants to try and catch players. Wouldn't be surprised to see Bugha and Aviv maybe even looking to move closer towards that Rift Island. Rift Island just providing such a great opportunity when players opt for that Rift. Just get pieced up by that lock-on pistol while they're rotating.
Take a look, though. Bila and Quanti here in a fight up against Higher and Raze. They're pretty spread out as they're trying to play a little bit of a pincer move here. So Quanti's going to take a lot of damage. The sniper shot comes in, doesn't quite connect, and he might have played his trump card just there. And Bila's in a world of trouble here. It's not looking too good for Quanti or Bila. As things start to swing into the momentum of the boys in the center. So far, so good for Raze and Higher. And Quanti takes off. So, Viola, I think it's about time to go meet your teammate there before it's too late. And there it is. Off he goes.
Quanti and Bila were relatively split, probably a little bit too split for their liking in that engagement. Only bringing that up because, again, you've got the likes of Clix, Epic Whale. They've been hovering Rebel's Roost after securing what they need from Lavish Lair. And this rotate, decent positional advantage as well. Able to get some elevation up on some of these hills and now just scout, see where the rest of the teams at Rebel's Roost are actually looking to position. And Aviv and Bugha got to weather the storm here just a little bit. Work their way up this cliff face. Skater and Dalty directly behind them, though. Not going to make it easy for them to get in completely unscathed.
Yeah, a lot of punishment taken here for this fight. Definitely not ideal considering the zone's pretty far. And I'm actually curious now whether or not Muzz and Paper managed to get the pickup here because I'm looking at the zone. I'm seeing some fresh arrows inside of the fencing fields. And, you know, just upon further thought, this is one of the few times where if you're someone like Muzz, if you're someone like Paper who your teammate was downed and you are just about to play the pickup, you're happy the zone land here. Like, you're actually grateful that the zone pushed further out. It gives them time to play into the storm here because otherwise this wouldn't even be a possible or a plausible pickup by any means.
But wait, look at that team coming out of the hazy hillside. Paper and Muzz, they're actually not going to be the last ones to the party here. Paper, though, probably happy at the fact that he was able to bring Muzz back to life. But again, MDF, we've got 1-2 teams trailing directly behind Paper and Muzz. If they're not careful, they might just find themselves in another solo performance situation. So definitely need to be wary of the fact that they are not the only team rotating so late. And again, because of the fact that Paper had to go for that reboot, it's going to cost them a lot of time in terms of reacquiring the resources and materials needed. Wouldn't be surprised either. Paper and Muzz probably wanting to get aggressive, make sure they get that surge damage back up to healthy levels in comparison to what the rest of the lobby has probably been able to accrue during the meantime, while Paper had to even go for that reboot van play.
Jumping into the mix, though, now with Clix and Epic Whale, I mean, it's not looking too great for them right here. It seems to be one of the more difficult games for them to find their footing, to find their lead, if you will. Point-wise, tournament-wise, they've been doing great in Clix in just consistent fashion, really, really in the zone here, hitting these sniper shots when it matters. That's all he wanted was the extra damage. But again, they could use a lot of material count here. They could use extra shields and heals. See what ends up happening. There's fights happening everywhere, though. Bugha and Aviv continue to get active from the outside of the zone to the edge. They get into a fight immediately. This is up against Possessed and Snacky right now. Into the box, Snacky tries to put it all on the table, but in the end, it's Aviv who stays consistent and true. He finds the elimination, and like we just mentioned, we knew Clix and Epic just don't seem to be in it. This game right here, this is one that hasn't quite gone their way and continues to remain unfavorable. Even after hitting that snipe onto Oliver, OG, and Jeff, they decide to push into them. And they return the favor, it seems like.
You got the audacity to shoot me? That's basically the position that Asian Jeff and Oliver OG seem to take up there for a moment with Clix and Epic Whale. Beef seemingly ended, though, as Asian Jeff, Oliver OG, recognizing the fact that they were not in an ideal position compared to where the rest of the lobby is currently holed up. So that will be a rotate away from Clix and Epic. A little bit of damage application, though, in return. Going to set themselves up nicely to prioritize a little bit more on their future rotations. But again, this zone, MDF, potentially looking, if it keeps pulling a little bit more west, a little bit more south from its current seat here at the Lavish Lair area. Might see a little bit more of that troublesome water zones coming into play.
It's not looking good right now for Tahi, who's currently down here. And Skittles on the other side of the wall here. Shots are starting to come in. The pressure's on. And look at all this material Scented is sitting on right there. And he's going to have to skate out of there. Gets the reboot card of Tahi's. And at least they weren't in complete shambles here. Although this is for sure a offsetting situation to be in. You know, a setback, if you will. He has to play for the save here. Let's take a look at how it all unfolded. He jumps in, turns around, finds the opponents up above him, and what should have been it for them turns around. Can't count someone like Scented out. Saw what they did last game. Skittles and Scented making that end game. I think it was the top 3 or so. Put them right back into this tournament. Before that, they were kind of middling in the competition, not doing anything too great.
Yes.
But this is their chance now.
It's both Skittles and Scented trying to make plays for a reboot on their duos. Scented, though, doesn't want to let Skittles have it for free, considering that Skittles just played spoiler towards Scented for trying to get that reboot off onto Tahi. Now, one more time, the trade exchange. But at this point, it's not looking worthwhile for either Scented or Skittles, as Scented will be the first to fall, but even with Scented having dropped those med kits and the shield potions, Skittles now so far outside of the zone. Even if he gets that reboot off, very high likelihood that Skittles and Trashy could get picked off the moment that they start to re-enter the zone, and where everyone else has already been able to find their ideal form of positioning, Skittles and Trashy are going to be that one step behind the curve.
Yeah, more importantly, what happened here where Ritual is down and Re is playing deep into the storm here and below the surge. Something must have gone terribly wrong for them to continue to trail this far behind when they have had what should have been a fairy tale start for them, an uncontested weather station for the forecast tower. And now the shots are coming in. They've been outed by Jeff and Oliver OG, who have the edge of the zone. And Re does have a lot of heals, so I think he'll be able to survive for quite some time, but it's just a matter up to the lobby now of whether or not they decide to fight. Behind them, there's a player there. I don't know what's happening there. I saw Paper fall in the feed too, so that's a whole nother situation we're going to have to tune in with as well.
Skittles and Trashy.
Yep, here they are.
Re getting cut short here, but he does. This is an engagement that he wants to force. Skittles falling incredibly low. Re just steamrolling through his box. Skittles, you went on a rescue mission for Trashy, and it's going to cost you in the end game here. As now Re, medallion in hand, one more medkit still left to work with. It's going to be Trashy that he's going to try to confirm another elimination onto, but no, Trashy instead forces his way into the zone. But Re, damage already done. Trashy just having to play it out as a solo, and Re with the huge refresh to extend this Game 5 lifeline.
Not only that, the damage. He was over 200 below, and he finds a fully healthy Trashy in the storm. The finish, the down body, this is everything that he needed to at least have a chance. And this is why you never, ever, ever count yourself out. But more importantly, you never let your guard down when you are inside the storm. You never know what danger is lurking nearby. But back with Acorn and Cold, this is almost like poking the wound of all the other players that are up at the top of the standings, our second and third place teams that are not doing as well. You have Acorn and Cold doing exceptionally well. And they are, again, arguably contested by 2 or 3 teams at their drop, and it just does not even look like that's what's been happening for them.
Acorn and Cole definitely seeming to have found their groove, as Clix and Epic, they want to get into their own rhythm as well. But Clix, Epic, a little bit more towards dead side of zone, but Clix does have eyes on Chimp inside of a box. always willing to take peeks as well with that Reaper Sniper. As pressure continues to stay applied onto Chimp. And Chimp without Scissor, Clix likely spotting out the fact that this is a solo he can look to abuse for surge tag damage. If not, just another elimination for more points.
Well, don't forget, everyone that's been playing well so far, it's really, really important that they have a strong foundation to lead into tomorrow, where there's going to be 1.5 times the points. Everyone's going to be able to hit the drawing board and come in with a fresh take, fresh strategy. But for game number 5, this is really going to be the solidifier for anyone who has a strong position inside the top 10. And you can see Muzz and Paper are surely going to slip down. Nox and Crisp as well, fallen as soon as they have been, are giving everyone else a chance to really run their way back up into this. Clix, Epic Whale, Yamzo Rise, Aviv Bugha, Sphinx, and Pump all have a chance now.
And Cooper and Miro, last match, keep in mind, they had that forecast tower. This game, they do not. And it makes a world of difference in terms of how aggressive Cooper and Miro have actually chosen to be, just barely managing to stay above that damage threshold. Clix and Epic Whale, though, again, well above the damage threshold. Now it's just about crossing this massive body of water and hoping that they don't get pieced along the way. Got a solo above them as well. Although Quanti, silent as a church mouse currently, does not want to be spotted out by a duo, especially not one as treacherous as Clix and Epic Whale.
And just a quick update, Bugha takes down Ree, so Ree is out. That is it. Third place spot now opens up as more runway inside of the top 5 begins to reveal itself. But unless Acorn and Cold can be stopped here, it's just going to continue to grow this lead. And Cooper and Miro are also hot on their heels. So a lot of big dogs in the running here, but there's a lot of room for top 10, and it's absolutely going to change here once this game's over. Take a look at the Storm here, the edge where Cooper and Miro positioned up. They have continued to seemingly know where I think the zones are going. They might have honestly secured another forecast tower for all we know at this point. They have been just in such key positions every single time.
But even if the positioning is strong, you never know which teams or solos might be getting a little desperate depending on where their surge strategy has left them. Acorn and Cold, though, they've been on the low ground for quite some time, and given that they're at the front side of this zone, Clix Epic, they definitely want to try and control high ground for the time being, but it's really just going to depend on if they can prevent these teams from just grappling up to them, because that's been the main crushing factor for the high ground.
We've seen this happen, though. We've seen Clix play this out exactly like this, where he builds up this big singular tower, and then they just give it up. I think they've learned their lessons, but this time it seems like they want to commit once again. So I wonder what learnings are they taking into this high ground hold here. This time, Dan Redux looking for revenge. They fought them earlier in game number 1. They actually were the team that first take them out, and now they lose high ground to them. And you can see this is what I'm talking about. This is the risk of going for height. Now look, Clix is in a terrible position here with no material, and you have all these other teams trying to throw their hat into the mix here. And up come Rise and Yamzo, up go Agers and Kanata. Everyone that needs these big games to either come back or huge games to solidify a top position are right back in the mix. And this is incredible for Clix and Epic to find the refresh and to go straight back to the top with their newfound mats.
But Clix just building up with wood. Surely someone from down below is going to be able to spot that one out and look for the chop. Right now, the Cooper Miro a little bit more preoccupied with the solo that tried to jump into their box. That's going to be a nice little pickup there for Miro and Cooper. Point elimination. Mild siphon on the materials. Clix Epic, though, dropped to secondary height for the time being because of Peterbot and Pollo. Current high ground overlords.
Bugha, Aviv, Yamzo, Rise, all of the big dogs are coming up, trying to take their stab at height. But more importantly, they just don't want to be in this crevice down low. This is what the grapple hooks allow you to do, play for these odd positions. And Clix now is in a world of trouble. He's been boxed up. He has to fight for it. It's not looking good. He goes down to the hands of Aaron. Meanwhile, in the low ground, Cooper and Miro continue to play the front side the way they have, staying down, finding points. It continues to rack up the death toll. Tally up here. The points are looking great for Cooper and Miro right now.
Cooper and Miro are just profiteering so heavily off of the low ground, picking off teams that try to isolate themselves more towards the backside of the zone. But Cooper won't be able to make it through the pre-existing builds, gets split off from Miro for a moment. And the stone tick damage, just too much for him to deal with. As now Miro uses his final shield potion. It's all about placement points. He's trying to hang again towards the backside of that zone, trying to stay ahead of the congestion. But nearly goes down. Quick moment of relief. But again, with 0 builds, he's forced to the low ground. He's forced to just try and scurry around here, hope that nobody spots him out. Goes for a massive shot, but it's going to be Yamzo who comes out on top.
I love that. Yamzo and Rise played that smart. They jumped out with a ramp, edit together, making sure they don't leave any room for error. And they are playing exceptionally well. They're actually playing so good here that Peterbot and Pollo might just have a run for their money. There are no more heals here left to survive the White Storm. They just have to fight it all the way for the low ground. And Yamzo knows how to play these peaks. It's textbook, but it's not good enough. The trades are good. And Peterbot wins another game, putting him right back into the top 10, into the conversation.
Peterbot and Pollo, they snuck up on the high ground, and they snuck this one away from Yamzo and Rise. It truly looked like this was going to be the Yamzo and Rise show, but Peterbot, one more time, reminding all of NA exactly why his mechs are considered to be one of the highest on this region.
And it's incredible. You would think the meta changed from last week to this week or the weekend before that, but no, it's just the level of competition has elevated. Take a look at how Peterbot jumps in with Pollo, and they are playing how they should have been from game number 1, and all of a sudden close that gap with a victory royale here. The second one on the day for the grand finals weekend. Congratulations to Peterbot as they take a huge win here, Taco. This is going to set them up very well now.
Look, second to last match of the day, MDF, and for Peterbot and Pollo to find themselves yet another victory royale. Have to imagine that's going to shake up the leaderboard just a little bit here, but we don't have to really consider the questions surrounding that because Zeke, Vivid, and Kelly will answer it all for us.
Yes, we will. My gosh, what a game. How does Peterbot and Pollo get not one, but 2 victory royales in grand finals? And might I add, I think this is like the first time we've seen a game come down to like this where both sides have no builds. Both sides are just desperately trying to use the builds that are just there as cover. It almost reminds me of a couple weeks ago when we saw the Bugha 1v2. Like this was so entertaining to watch.
A single shot separating who actually gets the victory royale in grand finals, and Peterbot hits the shot to close it out. I mean, Kelly, who's writing this stuff? Is it you?
We can't expose our writer staff, okay? So you have to different question.
I mean, yeah, it's just classic right now. I mean, and you mentioned it, Zeke, the first team to get 2 victory royales. We've only played 5 games. That's 2 out of 5 that they've won so far. And honestly, Kelly, we were kind of talking about it. It's on the back foot of, honestly, Clix and Epic Whale, right? Clix and Epic Whale up on the higher ground, kind of just repeatedly going for it when they don't necessarily have enough mats. They themselves, they're fighting teams for it. Peterbot and Pollo are aware of that. They look up, they're like, hey, why don't we kind of just walk up here and take the higher ground and the victory royale while we're at it?
And to add also, this was after Pollo got the res onto Peterbot.
Gosh, yeah.
And they were able to take height. That doesn't happen too frequently, especially at such a late stage of the game. I don't think anyone expected after seeing Peterbot go down, but absolutely incredible. Coming down to the 2v2, and this team right now looks like they're going to be jumping up some placements. They were in a somewhat rough spot. They were in 11th place before that game, and it looks like they're going to be jumping up all the way to 4th place. But also, you have to give a shout out to Rise and Yamzo, one of the most consistent duos that we've seen so far. And we saw how well this duo can be. For whatever reason, people tend to call them the dark horse, but I don't think they're going to be calling them that at all anymore.
That's right. They're going to take that #1 spot. They want a spot at Globals, and they want the Axe of Champions. Let's take a look at the standings. We have a single game left to go on the day, and then that kind of sets the stage for tomorrow. Cooper Miro, your global champion, sitting in that number 1 spot. But just look at this top 5. All of these players could make a strike at the top. My concern, once again, Vivid, you asked me a game ago what my worry was. My worry is the top dogs are starting to pull away. If this keeps happening, it's going to get harder and harder to catch up. At that point, you're just looking at the top 5. Which one of you is going to win?
Yeah, but look at the top 3, right? I guess you can kind of say the top 4, right? Those are the main ones kind of pulling away. 30 points between 4th and 5th. But honestly, Kelly, I think, there's one thing that we have to remember about day number 2 of this competition, 1.5x points tomorrow, right? So I really feel like still looking at the range, like Muzz and Paper 100 points behind, that is still good range for them to be able to have a really good run tomorrow. But I mean, we'll face that beast tomorrow when we get there. Let's talk about the beasts that are Cooper and Miro right now. How do they keep doing it? Kelly, they're contested.
I think that might actually be helping them a little bit because they keep winning these off-spawn fights. And you can see right here, even with being contested in 2 eliminations, they're still below Storm Surge. And being able to keep their cool while being below is just showcases their expertise in the game, knowing exactly when to engage and when to drop on. And that's what we saw right here.
I think, the fact that you call out the contested, right? This is off the heels of we've won every off-spawn battle, right? But a single game, or even 2 where they drop that ball and they're eliminated right out the gate, it could spell pretty tough times for the duo. Now, it hasn't happened yet, but they need to be very, especially going into the explosive format that will be tomorrow.
I love Zeke. He's just keeping everybody humble. He's like, hey, by the way, if you're contested, that one time you go down could really be the difference. You've really got to create a major lead to kind of counteract that, of course. But so far, I think their ability to not only take the fight directly to the yacht, but go ahead and veer off, land somewhere else, and still adapt in that sense, I think that they're just way ahead of the game right now.
I do want to add also that all top 5 of our teams are returning duos. And every team that's grabbed a victory royale is also a returning duo. So I think it just showcases that not only mechanical ability where you're dropping, but having that synergy with your duo is so important. And I don't know if there's a duo out there with more synergy than Cooper and Miro right now. And I mean, actually, I don't know if I want to say that because so many of these teams are so in sync.
Going into
Gotta take it back.
Going into game number 6, Zeke, who's going to walk away in that number 1 spot? Are we going to see the lead extended, the gap closed? I'm excited to see.
One final game. This is to set up how we will kick off the competition tomorrow. How does it all unfold? Will Cooper and Miro be in first place? Will another duo overtake that number 1 spot? Let's find out. The last game of day number 1. Taco, MDF, over to you.
What's really incredible about this too is that we are seeing what could be the Cooper story really blossom, not only from the global championship, and if they win this, they get to go directly back to it, right? So there's so much at play here. I mean, Taco, again, from a fan perspective, I'm beyond excited to see how the results are going to play out after this 6th game.
Of course. And then as well, from our commentator perspective, it has been absolutely incredible witnessing all of these teams and a lot of the mental fortitude that comes with playing in a set lobby here in the grand finals. But again, it is only day 1, but all of these teams are still looking to try and finish strong.
Yeah, and tomorrow's going to be even more important to perform better because 1.5x the points. But here we go. Last game. Let's jump in. Game number 6 is here. Saturday is just the start of the journey of this FNCS Grand Finals. Tomorrow, players will have to wake up and take another attempt at the trophy. But first, you have to do everything you can in your power here to perform to the highest caliber. What we are watching within our top 5, within our top 10 is nothing short of incredible, as some of our favorite teams have found themselves up at the top of the standings.
Ridiculous stuff there. Scented knows that he's got this duo hot on his heels. Found the Frenziato, gets one little clipping there into Wick.
Oh my
Wick
God.
Nearly getting the better end of Scented. But now, Tahi, Scented, they've at least managed to find the first elimination. That's going to force Savzi fend for himself here. Not sure if it's going to be an easy task for him to try and collect Wick's reboot card either. But for Scented and Tahi, they've had pressure here at Classy Courts all day long. And it's only going to continue to pick up here, I'd imagine. But for a team like Miro and Cooper that has also been contested here at the Marigold, but Veer and Sonido so heavily outdropped that they also opted for a swerve off instead.
Yeah, I'm not too big of a fan of the fact that Miro and Cooper are not going to get those early game tags. This might be something that works against them all in all. Before they had a different situation, but hold up, Convict and Vanilla's a bit of a battle here up against Crackly and Forever Zone Wars, just giving us some early game entertainment right now. Nothing's going to conclude here. This is like a continuation, I feel like, of Crackly's semifinals story. They were contested here all throughout the lower bracket. They continue to be contested here. Seems like in the grand finals now, and it's just pretty tough to play this one out. Meanwhile, talking about contested storylines, one that's even more important is Cold and Acorn. Can't help but start to root for this team and really feel like Acorn could do it again.
Acorn maybe even catching a glimpse of the fact that at least one of the duos contesting them here at Fencing Fields has chosen to venture away. But you likely also saw another duo. So you have to expect, okay, Muzz, Paper, Mason, and Pen. One of these teams is leaving. The other somewhat following, because it seemed as if Mason and Empen were going to give a little bit more chase there for a moment into Buzz and Paper, but instead they fall back, keeping in mind that it's really all about that Mythic Striker and getting the medallion over at Fencing Fields. But the Mythic Striker, just such an incredibly strong weapon to be able to utilize throughout the course of a match. And for the last game of the day as well, you know that Acorn and Cold are going to want to set themselves up for day 2. But it's just not going to come by them easy.
Thinking about this point spread is pretty competitive here, even within the top 20. That one good game, even for Batman Booga Rapid here, all of a sudden they have a chance tomorrow as the points start to really elevate. Any team can throw themselves well into the top 10, comfortable for the fight for it all. Baka and Pars, very different position that we've seen them in any other game so far. So you can tell that they're taking this game a little bit differently, a little bit more seriously, not trying to 50-50 everything away, as is Muzz and Paper here, going back to the trusty fit. But look, they leave the drop quick, Taco, and they're just like, hey, we'd rather just play this game out. We need to just stay alive.
Look, the last time that Paper had this outfit on, he was looking like the sniper in the lobby, okay? And he's got a sniper in his loadout currently. He already found one elimination onto a team that likes to drop at Ruin Reels. It was going to be Bacon first to fall at the Ruin Reels. You can see TK left as a solo. Hasn't been spotted out just yet by Muzz or Paper. But Cooper and Miro, they've also got their own prerogatives here. Next to Pleasant Yaza is Cooper. A little bit of elevation here, can oversee this box fight taking place below. And he's itching for that third-party opportunity because the forecast towers, once they come into play, I have to expect that's what Cooper and Miro are likely setting up for currently.
Yeah, not only that, they're holding his van too. So like if there is a solo lurking about, I mean, they're not just gonna give it to anyone for free. They would likely want to chase someone out with the grapple hooks. All in all, very key positioning here. Great spot to be in right now to kind of determine the pacing of this last game for day number 1.
And like I just mentioned, Forecast Tower, going to be the focus for this secondary zone. Reed, though, way off from Ritual. just trying to confirm a little bit of excess materials, excess loot from the surrounding area. Peterbot and Pollo also are going to be able to claim another forecast tower for the final match of the day. And when you think about the fact that this is a team where in 2 separate lobbies now, they've had access to that forecast tower, and they're the only team to be able to repeat a Victory Royale in our first day of grants. So, Monster, 3rd time's the charm, possibly. If Peterbot and Pollo are after a 3rd Victory Royale, that forecast tower is going to be one of the best ways to set themselves up for it.
Rise and Yamzo on the move right now. Very much split up from one another here. Everyone is just trying to get their game in motion so far. Meanwhile, on the feed, though, Muzz finds Cam. So eliminations happening, which is very much critical to Muzz and Paper's success, right? Really think about it. They gave up their drop, which means that they're completely playing, you know, an off-the-cuff rotation and route right now, and it's turning out to be successful. Freeze finds Scented in the feed too, so another big elimination there, and likely the end of the run for some teams that had a chance up at the top 10.
At least as far as day 1 is concerned. But you touched on it at the start of this match, MDF. 1.5 times multiplier is definitely nothing to snooze on. So even for some of these teams that might find themselves outside of that top 5 in the leaderboard, because we have definitely been seeing a little bit of a point disparity build up already here in day 1, but it's maintaining that, which could be difficult once that point multiplier comes into action. Good positional play here out of Tahi. Clearly to get Scented back into the lobby. Actually be able to pick up a decent amount of loot as well. Might have been Scented's leftover after he got elimed, but Tahi, it's all about making a play for the reboot van. That'll be the focus.
Reboot van's important. Uga and Aviv right now playing the outskirts here, still holding on to their top 5 position. Talk about point disparities. You can see how things start to really jump up. A 30-point difference between 5th and 4th. Doesn't mean you can count them out, but here's Ritual. I like that they're taking a fight earlier now before things get a little chaotic and they actually win this engagement. This is going to set themselves up for success right here. This is going to allow them to have that comfort, have that damage that they need to at least create a runway to play for the positioning, take advantage of their forecast tower. Muzz and Paper are listening nearby, but Acorn and Cold also in a troublesome situation here. We've seen Acorn and Cold already have a problem against Edgy and Tavern, who ambushed them before, but now look like they're starting to position up for some revenge here.
But this is going to be a combat cash fight that Cold and Acorn most definitely kind of need. If you look at the hard materials, Cold doesn't have as much metal as he would probably like. So if they're able to confirm this cash, that will definitely make up the difference here. So can't expect Cold or Acorn to fall back anytime soon. Edgy Tavern maybe recognizing the fact that they're just too little too late towards this engagement. Could still look for a fight after the fact, because Cold and Acorn will be able to confirm the cash no problem, since they were the first to pounce upon it, having already been local to Fencing Fields. And yeah, that's going to be the break-off. Tavern Edgy coming up short here. Probably a pretty stiff blow as well, because if they're making a play for the cash and just giving up the engagement like that, not even opting to try and force their way into the boxes there for Acorn and Cold, so they're not getting surge tag damage, they're not getting materials, they're seemingly going to be forced into an engagement at some point or another, given what they missed out on from that cash.
Yeah, things get pretty bad. Talk about weapons cash fights. Yamzo and Rise are also looking to battle it for here as well. They catch the upgrades, they got the extra heals, and the metal, of course, is available to them. But I think more importantly right now is the fact that they need to catch a set of eliminations here, start getting that damage counter up. as we are approaching the later stages of the game. Most of these rounds have started off pretty quickly, and now we're catching the final game pressure start to truly settle in here. Things are slowing down here, but that doesn't mean the surge is going to allow people to get comfortable for too long. Ultimately, you will have to fight here, and we are just minutes away from things getting extremely chaotic here. Death and Polar as a top 10 team. Taco looking relatively okay, but not the greatest. They too have some problems here ahead of them.
And it's almost kind of crazy to think about too, because when you start off the day with just so much outright aggression pouring in from what felt like every direction from all these teams, and for it to now just practically come to a halt here, a lot of these teams essentially putting themselves now and you have in a position where they're basically waiting out for that surge threshold to come into play. And if you're taking your chances on whether or not you've done enough damage to avoid being caught up in the chaoticness that occurs once the surge comes into play, it might be tough to come by for some of these teams, like what we saw there from Death and Polarize, because they were alone, nobody nearby. Teams looking for dead side rotations or teams that are just at these uncontested drops. If their struggle today has been maintaining a healthy surge damage threshold, well, that'll be something for consideration in VOD review tonight. Because again, a set lobby, especially a grand set lobby, is always going to be an entirely different beast when it comes to maintaining a surge strategy.
Yeah, I'll be the first to say I don't like it. I think all of our top 5 leaderboard leaders at the moment, they have to do more. They have to be a little bit more aggressive and honestly get out there and just take it at this point, because otherwise, you called it correctly. They're going to be under some serious trouble of other teams that will need to fight too. And if they don't start sooner rather than later, they are just going to give away this nice lead that they found themselves in. Clix and Epic Whale is very much included in that conversation as well. Look at how, sure, they have some tags, but they're sitting next to 4 duos, them being one of them. Why, right? Like, why put yourself in such risk? And look at who it is. Re and Ritual, Noxy. 2 teams of which are very much comfortably inside the top 10. And then you have, of course, Ozone and Golden up above, who can easily throw their hat in the conversation, right? This is just all types of trouble waiting to unfold, and here it is.
I like the way, though, that Epic Whale was looking to create a little bit of distance from that conglomerate of teams. Just utilizing some of the natural faces, that cliff face, providing some good coverage for him and Clix to rotate through the low ground. But Death and Polarize, they've got a little bit more of a direct approach here, trying to deal with the likes of Jiven and Pickle. And I hope Destiny Jesus has been able to formulate some kind of a strategy for his team that he's coaching there in Jiven and Pickle, because it's definitely been a rough first day. And Polarize only looking to try and increase the problems here that Jiven and Pickle have been up against. But Death actually finding himself knock full Elam now. Polarize stuck inside of their box, trying to see if he can hold on. Maybe a little bit of assistance coming through from Bugha and Aviv there for Jiven and Pickle. So you could see them seemingly wanting to rotate, possibly looking to get a little bit more aggressive here with this engagement.
Yeah, I'll say it right now. Any team going 2-2, head-to-head against Jiven and Pickle are just not going to have a fair chance at all right now. They are playing very, very exceptionally well when it comes down to these early game engagements. This is why they're kind of in the middle of the pack and will likely have a better day 2 as they get to do the homework tonight. Well, let's jump over Cooper and Mira, who have actually gotten their hands dirty for a second there. But it doesn't matter. Look at how they're sitting on all of this excess material here, likely a weapons cache that was rewarded to them. They carried back, hauled back all that loot. And now they have Kanata and Aegis, a desperate Kanata and Aegis, I might add, as Kanata and Aegis have unfortunately been eliminated off drop at least twice, giving them a much harder foundation to stand on in this game. Mira and Cooper, of course, our team in the lead, though. They have everything to gain here by jumping on this team right now, because with 54 above the surge, that's not going to survive the test of time here much longer. And this team inching their way upwards is showing them that they also have to fight.
Mira and Cooper, though, recognizing the fact that Kanata started to get some overhead on them.
They're getting
Kanata
ready.
Now looking for a little bit more of a challenge here to pose into the likes of Mira and Cooper. And yeah, like you said,
he's setting up the box fight. He's just like, let's do it. He's like, let's do it. I got all this space. Look, they put no walls in between them. He wants the room to work with, to move around, to look for side angles, find a feet tag. Like, this is exactly what they wanted to do. And look, this is where Miro wants to be. That is exactly what he wants to do to you. Take the one-on-one, catch you off guard, and finish the fight just that quick.
And now, because of all these pre-existing builds underneath, Miro, though, still getting a massive shot in onto Agers. Cooper as well, making sure to tag team alongside his duo. But we saw Miro and Cooper, they had that entire territory that they were setting up for the box fight engagement, MDF, and Agers and Kanata playing right into the palm of their hands.
The crash pad, to crash pad into, you know, an offensive play is actually incredible to watch play out at a high level like that. You just really don't see it coming. More often than not, a duo drops the crash pad. Dude, they're getting out of there. They're not trying to fight you. But you're talking about Cooper and Miro here. Little did you know, right?
Miro didn't even have the Frenzy Auto, by the way. That was all hammer pump action as well. So definitely an impressive double elimination secured there by Cooper and Miro. Another team looking to do something of the same effort. It's Yamzo and Rise. Yamzo, a couple of issues with the crash pad, but he's got a grapple blade also. Clicks, though, on the other hand, finds one knock onto Threats. Dukes still up and running, but for how much longer is the real question here, because Clicks, having lost Epic, you know he's going to be out to try and sabotage Dukes' odds of getting that revive off onto Threats. Dukes forced to pause his revive for the time being. So much pressure from Clicks, and the Mythic Frenzy wins those almost every time, but in Clicks' case, this time was the only success story he really needed. Avenge Epic Whale in the process, and now a decent amount of materials, some good supplies as well. Medkit gonna go off, no problem. Clicks has just got to cut his way into the next zone. He's definitely stacked enough to do so as a solo, though.
And it's crazy. He has options right now with those extra heals here to, for sure, rat out some placement points. And he needs it. He's going to need every single position point he can gain. And right now, it's not quite rewarded just yet. We got to get into that top 25 and, more importantly, close to that top 15.
He broke into the top 5, though, off of that play alone.
That is true. Earning more points, at least it's not a, you know, a net negative game, to say the least. Okay, Acorn and Cold not looking to even build that back wall. Curious to see if they're going to return some fire, but back on over to Reed and Richard. We're at 3 eliminations. This game really taking it by storm. And you have to really appreciate the fact that they've continued to adjust game after game. No 2 games in the 6th round, you know, the 6 we've seen so far has been the same, especially for them, for being contested to being, you know, having issues with Storm Surge, and then all types of the gauntlet they've gone through, even working their way up to, of course, that Victory Royale. So very interesting to say the least. Back on over to Clicks, though, who, like we just mentioned, has pressure coming in. You saw that team see him and then decide to key in. They know he's a solo, and they're close on his heels. Oh, no.
It initially seemed a little bit promising, but just too much pressure, too much focus brought his way there. Clicks, unlucky finish in this final match. It would be hard for him and Epic Whale to hold that 5th place in the leaderboards. All depends on how some of these other teams hovering that top 5 actually managed to do in our final game of day number 1 here. of NA's Grand Finals. Tavern hiding out, but Yamzo, Rise, they've got their sights set on this solo. Acorn as well, next to Cold, trying to see if they could get credit for that elimination. Acorn actually going to split just a little bit too far from Cold, finds himself becoming a focal point as well, which should have just been a clean pickoff onto Tavern, now results in Cold losing his duo.
Yeah, this is a pretty tight situation to be in here when you have such a prominent lead over the competition. To give it away this soon is definitely going to be one that's going to haunt you for the night. You want to end the night comfortably above the rest, and now it's all up to Cold here. The pressure is on, but we've seen him continue to perform in these types of situations. He is, by all means, a fantastic endgame player, and he's here right now, but he's got trouble knocking on the door. He's got Yamzo potentially already pushing up. Rise here as well. We know Yamzo and Rise have proven to be two of the deadliest on the region right now when it comes down to endgame and what they're capable of in the low ground. Can't count them out. Body of Water is going to force everyone across. You got a grapple hook, you're happy. Otherwise, this is going to be a very precarious situation to be in. But hold up, Yamzo and Rise below the surge here. Taco, they will have to fight.
No, this is plays of desperation right now from Yamzo. Rise forced to try and get his heels up, but that's going to cost them time. While Yamzo's waiting for Rise to resustain, they're missing opportunities on these teams that are already rotating, where they could have been taking shots to try and get themselves above that surge threshold. You could see Yamzo hesitating because he didn't want to split too far from Rise, didn't want to risk losing his duo when he fell so low on HP. And Cold, if he's not careful with making sure to maintain that surge as well, could also find himself being a victim. As now Miro, Cooper, still hanging a little bit more towards the mid-ground layers. Nobody making a play just yet for height. But with the way that this zone is pulling back and forth over the body of water, it's tough to keep track of height.
More importantly, it's tough to navigate these end games here as a solo. When you're a Vive here, you're just burning through your material, having to expand ever more further. Still playing it very much safe here, not trying to find himself under any enemy builds. Yamzo and Rise have worked their way up to second height, and so has Cold. Cold is still in this game, by the way. Top 17 now. We already saw how difficult it is to make these types of plays as a solo, and Aviv is in this conversation here too. So far, so good here. Miro and Cooper continue to march their way to the tune of their own song, but Cooper hurt big time here, finds himself right in between a world of trouble. Rhea and Ritual down low, the Juggernauts that are comfortable up above, and the Surge now active for the remaining few that haven't done enough. But Cold continues to do enough to at least stay in this game here, to stay in the conversation, to continue to earn points. Miro and Cooper fall somehow before Cold, giving him a runway here to earn more points.
And Cold, it's a blessing in disguise here for him as well. And use that Flowberry Fizz, just trying to do what he can to maintain staying towards the front side of these moving zones. No one seeming to spot out this solo just yet. And it's Quanti and Bila who have ultimate high ground currently. Rise Yamzo on a completely different layer, but they are just tearing through everyone they encounter. A massive pickoff as far as point eliminations are concerned. But Rise and Yamzo, they're still moving. And Aviv can't be said for them because that's going to be an easy elimination. Solo in the backside, no chance.
Fully finished. Cold also gets taken out to the hands of Baka. So Baka and Pars also earning points here to get back inside that top 10 to start their day off to a strong number 2. But it's Rise and Yamzo right now who are literally climbing to the occasion here, trying to get that first place spot as Cooper and Miro is out of the game. Cold and Acorn are no longer a factor here. And so is Reet and Ritual, looking to make up for the downed game in the previous run. But Rise and Yamzo could be setting themselves up for this victory royale right here. We could be seeing repeat performances, back-to-backs happen here for teams that are consistent enough Reed and Ritual now taking a low ground fight. These points are worth a lot. Reed's going to be so upset he misses the edits there, but Yamzo falls a huge tag, not before Rise finishes off Suscript, so the trades are real. A solo here, right next to Rise, and the pressure's on. Luke falls from above. He needs those materials, but it's not going to be enough. And Reed and Ritual continue to rack up here, and they need these points more than anyone else, and down goes Baka. Pars is a solo now in the water here, and the damage is done.
But way up above all this calamity taking place in the low ground, it's going to be Quanti up top. Byla looking to try and ruin Reed and Ritual's opportunity for another victory on the day. Byla gets some decent damage into Reed, but now it's all hinging upon whether or not Quanti has enough heals to sustain this one out. Ritual gonna have to wait with this final medkit. Quanti actually opting to drop to the low ground, finds Ritual, but he needs to get the finishing blow. Ritual gonna box up immediately, and it's just enough space. It's just enough between him and Quanti at the end. An unfortunate story for Quanti and Byla as they watch the 6th lobby of the day slip away from them, but a second place finish, nothing to beat themselves up over.
I promise you, my jaw dropped, and Ritual is walking with the medkit out in the open for information. I just couldn't believe he was willing to throw it all for a second there, and he gets tagged first and still somehow manages to turn that engagement around. You just don't win those, but Ritual is different. He hits the tag that matters most right here, and then he just holds the wall. That is all he had to do, so he gets the credit to Reed and Ritual. Do it again to put them back inside, likely of the top 5 here, Taco.
Look, we've been harping on it all day, the importance behind these forecast towers. But if Peterbot and Pollo weren't enough to convince you, then surely Reed and Ritual have managed to seal the deal with this one, MDF. An impressive performance to close the day.
Yeah, listen, and this is just the start of the FNCS Grand Finals as day 1 comes to a close. Well, for myself, Monster D-Face, and of course the best Taco, we thank you guys for tuning in. Let's jump on over to see the results with the rest of the gang at the desk.
I cannot believe Reed and Ritual got themselves the VR. They've been hunting for it. They've gotten close several times. And like Monster said, to go out in those moments. Now, keep in mind, he had 11 builds, right? He had just enough. He's probably thinking, okay, if it's just a 1v1 and they're healing off, likely they don't have builds. Especially if I'm looking up, I'm seeing this crazy baseless guy. If he jumps at me, I at least could put a wall between me. I could put a couple things between us, but wow, the confidence is just to say, I'm down. This is the last game of the day. Let's go for the 1v1. Let's go for the VR.
Quanti, what an early play for the med kit. I mean, we went to a drone shot and we looked up there and there was like 10 to 15 seconds where he was tanking zone and maybe he didn't necessarily need to. Expended a lot of his med kits on that and gave Ritual the opportunity. But Kelly, what a heads up play from Ritual right there. I mean, to have Quanti drop down, right? He knows that his shields got cracked. So Ritual knows that he took a big amount of damage, but the heads up play to know somehow that it wasn't enough damage to mess with the amount of white HP that he had to still give him the advantage to win that takes some serious guts and some serious, like, in the moment awareness to feel confident enough that you're going to win if you just build off the other player.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, Reed is an absolutely incredible player. I'm a big fan of Reed, but Ritual just throughout the qualifiers, the semifinals, and now into the grand finals has just pulled out so much with duo. I just love to see both of them playing together. They complement each other so well. And Zeke, I know it seems like it's impossible for 2 teams to get 2 victory royales, but that was actually Reed and Ritual's 2nd victory royale. So to see them do that, I just cannot wait to see what our leaderboard is going to look like. I'm being a little too impatient, chat. I know you guys want to see it as well, because we know that these are the biggest names in NA, and I feel like we have not seen such a stacked top 7 in potentially the history of NA Fortnite.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been a really good day of Fortnite. And like you're saying, it kind of feels like maybe they're looking to repeat that week number 1. Remember, they got themselves a 5 ERs. They were so far ahead. They're just saying, how do we do that again, but in grand finals? Let's just make sure no one has any questions about our skill. Now, you talked about the standings. Let's take a look together with the Victory Royale, with the eliminations, with that final play on the day. Where do they end? They end in 4th place. And if we just turn our attention going from first down to that top 5, look at the point differential. Iamzo and Rise, after that last game, they overtake Cooper and Miro. But Viv, this is still anyone's game in this top 5. And any of these players in that top 5 could strike that number 1 spot.
Oh, I 100% agree with you, Zeke, but we're not going to hold back. We're going to make things spicy for sure. I'm going to remind everybody of something that I said a little bit earlier on, right after game number 3. The past 3 NA FNCSs have been won by the team that is in first place at the end of day number 1. Now, like I said, Zeke, what you said is 100% true. This is anybody's game, but I'm just saying, if history can repeat itself, it's looking good for Iamzo and Rise right now.
I mean, they want the title, right? They have looked and played so hard to try and get themselves the Axe of Champions, to add another accolade under their belts. And they've come up close a couple times, right? And to your point, if history repeats itself, we could be looking and talking about the first duo in NA to claim themselves a spot to Globals and the Axe of Champions. But there's still several duos and several just amazing plays that happen across NA today. Like, I don't know what NA was about or what everybody had for breakfast. Please, I'll take one of all of them, because there was just moments across the day where duos were constantly trading back and forth, all allowing to just kind of have that moment to show like, hey, this is why we've made it to Groundless. We've worked so hard, and now take a look. Why are you not cheering us on? You know?
I mean, it's been absolutely crazy. And Kelly, to back up your point of how competitive this leaderboard looks, this is actually the first time in NA that every player in the top 10 are returning finalists from the previous season.
Ooh.
How crazy is that?
It's impressive, and it just showcases how top heavy NA is. And I think especially compared to other regions, these are not only consistent players, but these are competitors that have strived to be the best and will compete in every tournament. They VOD review, and there's a reason why we see them every major, every chapter up on top. I mean, just look at these names. Look how many previous champions they are, how many fan favorites there are, and to see it be so close from first all the way down to 7th place. I am absolutely just enthralled with what tomorrow is going to bring.
I mean, these are what champions are made of. Seriously, I mean, we have seen some incredible storylines throughout the day. Cooper and Miro, the ability to stay on top while contested. Acorn and Cold absolutely dominating off spawn. You know what I mean? Coming out of fencing fields, a Mythic POI. Re and Ritual able to claim a forecast tower every single game. These are not easy things to overcome, but our finalists, our NA Grand Finals is proving that all of these players are worthy of being here, and they have shown us incredible things in just 6 games. Zeke, I cannot wait to see what more is in store over the course of the next 6 games tomorrow, not to mention more points on the line. Gosh.
That's right. Tomorrow, 1.5 times points. So you thought today was crazy. Yeah. Tomorrow, we could see the last place duo suddenly explode into that top 10, right? Yeah. So many things could happen. It is the first time we're going to see something like this in this type of setting. For now, though, I know you want to watch more games. I do too, but we have to say goodbye for the duos. They have to go back, VOD review, and say, what's our plan of attack going into tomorrow? Remember, Axe of Champions and a global championship spot, both on the line. Don't forget, EU is also before us. They will be able to claim their champions and then come back, check us out. We will claim champions here for ourselves. Fortnite fam, as always, we love hanging out with you guys. Thanks for doing this with us. We love watching Fortnite, talking Fortnite. It's been incredible. Until tomorrow, we love you. Keep yourself safe, and we'll see you on that battle bus. Beep, beep.
That's my show. Run up and see the goal. I'm gonna make it known.